Stream. Alright, now the stream should be started. It's just not casting yet. But I'll fix that in a second. Alright. Now I just have to start casting. And the stream started technically. Oh, wrong button. Let me get away from this. So technically the stream started, but it's not casting yet. Computer. Now I gotta wait for it to load because this takes forever. My least favorite part.
So guys, if you're in the team right now and you join the Discord and you're after 100 members, don't leave. Think you're not gonna get. Oh, you're the guy.
Yeah, I'm Jollyog.
What's gonna happen if you after that members number still shows bot.
There's just one thing I forgot to change in the settings. It's not gonna take that long. Oh, wrong thing. Let's see. Properties. And then. Alright.
Alright. Do we hit 4.7 chat?
Oh, I forgot to pull that up. 1,100. Oh, that's my webcam that I was looking at on the other thing. Why is there an ad? I thought the tab was too small to have an ad. Great, now this is here. How do you... I'm pressing the X. It does that. I press the triangle, it does the... Oh, there we go. Nope, same thing. Alright. Let me just reload, I guess.
Why is no one in here?
Bruh. Oh. I genuinely have no idea. Alright, let's see. Stream. Let me change the sub goal because I'm at that right now.
Yo, Jack, can we hit 4.7 before I end? Come on, bro. Hit it.
1,110 subs.
Hit the goal, Jack. Hit the goal. So I can feed my family.
You cannot feed your family. All of them will die and bleed. You cannot feed your family. You are poor.
One more sub.
Yeah. This is about. There's 2 streamers in here right now.
One more. Hi, streamer. 2 fans. Everybody's Yo, thank you guys so much for 4.7. Somebody say in the stream hi.
Alright, so that guy was ending his stream at the start of my stream, so we can kind of start my stream off pretty cool. You're a nice person. I'm glad that you would do this. I did not expect it, actually. Subscribe to both of us.
Yo, everybody in here, listen. Jolie is the streamer now. Everybody. Jolie is the streamer. I have to go. He's a streamer.
Wait, before you go though, do you think you'll be able to have this? I'll comment on your stream, and then I want you to go to my channel because there's a different guy named Jollyog where he has the O and the G capitalized, and people keep thinking that's me when they search it up. So I'm gonna comment on the video and then end the last few seconds. Thank you. Alright.
Wait, Jolie, do you want to know how many times I was strong enough I kept getting launched into a dupe server.
What do you mean dupe server?
Yeah, there's a dupe server. There's a dupe server getting launched into a dupe server.
What do you mean dupe server?
There was a second.
Oh wait, no, why am I going to mine?
Same code.
ZCHVR Yo, people watching my stream, this is the guy that was nice. You got, if anyone isn't subscribed. Alright, now let me just comment.
It's been your boy.
Alright.
Snowy.
Alright, so.
Off, and my fans are, well, loud. And one last thing, join the Discord, and remember.
Alright, I commented. Yeah, you still are on the stream because I'm the streamer.
Subscribe.
Yo, it's Jollyog.
It's Jollyog.
Yes.
Yes.
Jolly, what's up, Jolly? Bro, I can't believe it.
Alright, now I can stand up. Oh, almost forgot to go back.
Bro, how do you get the pigeon? How do you get the pigeon?
It's a seagull, and it was in the summer update. I think the seagull is actually coming back in the next. No, not the next flashback. So the next update, I think, is gonna be the flashback after the next flashback. The next flashback is gonna be. I think it's gonna be the what's it called? Basement flashback, and then the flashback after the basement flashback is going to be the summer flashback, which should have this. That's my theory. Don't take it as 100% word, but that's most likely what's gonna happen.
I won't. Dude, I've actually never been in a live stream. Can we play mini games?
Yeah, we're gonna play video games. That's pretty much what I do.
You had me.
No, you guys can tag. We haven't really done anything yet, so I don't care.
Surprise!
If you guys tag anyone or get tagged by anyone.
With K9. K9's gonna learn some German, and we're going to infiltrate the
I'm
Germans.
over here, you little goofy boy! That's how you know I'm the real one. There's only the real Jollyog can say that.
That's not that many.
Well, okay. I mean that makes it better, but I meant the word 9.
The plan is to teach
Everyone
K9
go to city. We're gonna
German
play Ding Dong Ditch.
German. And we're gonna teach him really good German. We're gonna teach him how to smack talk in German. What K9 doesn't know.
Is it because of the Duke servers, or is it because of all the pre-recorded streams that people are
Keep your
making?
hands down a little bit. I wouldn't put it. So when we go into that lobby, you gotta keep your hands down. Okay? You gotta stay away from the 45-degree angle. Okay, now put your hands in the middle.
Tracking? Guys, run away! Run away! He's a tracker!
You can't keep bringing up Hitler in front of them. Okay, it's really embarrassing.
Guys, we have to hide away from him.
I'm gonna get canceled, man.
We should probably change our
Guys, we
outfits.
have to hide away from him. Alright guys, we're gonna play Ding Dong Ditch. So Lava Monkey, it's where, so I'm gonna explain the rules really quickly. I'm only doing this so you can hear the rules on the stream, just in case people are being loud. I'm gonna unmute everyone after I explain. So Lava Monkey has to touch the back wall of info. Where is the Lava Monkey? Everyone back away from info so the Lava Monkey can go in there. Where is the Lava Monkey?
Zone.
Mickey Mouse. Go inside of the info, Mickey Mouse.
K9, we'll make a German of you yet. But not that German. Keep your hands down. Damn, dude. When you get canceled, don't bring me down with you. Watch to the end to see K9's
Well, I'm
reaction.
gonna
for what I'm telling
unmute
you.
I'm gonna unmute you guys for a second, so I can hear you guys now.
Hey Leute, wo seid ihr? Hey, bitte
It's
langsam.
Jollyog. Okay, whoa. Let's walk and talk. I can hear. Oh, he died. It still says tracking. It's a gorilla tag glitch. It's a glitch on gorilla tag. If you leave and rejoin, it should change your name. I don't know. No, if you join the Duke server, you can just like. If you join the Duke server, so Lava Monkey, everyone get out of the way, nobody get tagged, get out of the way of Lava Monkey. Lava Monkey has to go inside of info. We're gonna play Ding Dong Ditch. Alright, wait, Lava Monkey, just walk, alright, now you can run because no one's in the way. Alright. Alright, any last...
Und er hat keine Freunde.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright. Now I've muted everyone. I'm gonna unmute you guys. I just have to explain how the game works. So Lava Monkey, since you got tagged, you have to do that too. So both Lava Monkeys have to touch the back of the wall of info.
Hey, ist mein Freund.
And then all the color monkeys, everyone else has to follow me, have to start here on this specific part of the shelf, like this shelf right here. You can I don't like being down here or up here because it just makes it harder to tell who is who. So don't. Why are you guys chasing? I never said to start.
It's been heist.
I don't. Forget I asked. I forgot that you guys. Alright, so black. Now all of you guys have to touch the back of info. So everyone go back. All the lava monkeys, not the color monkeys. Color monkeys have to go on that shelf. That specific shelf. So pretty much, all the color monkeys, when the round starts, all the color monkeys have to come outside of the mall. Every single color monkey. It doesn't matter how far outside, as long as they're not climbing on anything. So everyone, that means you two, you three, everybody has, all of the color monkeys have to leave the mall.
Hey, Liza!
This is the mall. This is outside the mall. I'm gonna unmute Green because he's not listening. Why are you not leaving the mall?
Yeah.
Alright, Lava Monkey, you have to be touching the back wall, remember that. You might accidentally tag someone before the round even starts, and you already got 3 people. Let me just remute. Alright. So then, some random person, and this is not an official map, so don't chase. So the Lava Monkeys have to touch that back wall. So far, Darkness is the only person listening. Anyways, and then when one color monkey is chosen to touch this right here, which is ringing the doorbell, when we ring the doorbell, everyone, all the color monkeys have to go back to the shelf, and the lava monkeys have to leave through the door, not the window. They have to leave through the door and try to tag us before we make it back. Alright? So go back to info. Alright, and I'm gonna unmute everyone, and I'm gonna talk you guys through the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
By 2 rounds, I don't mean 2 full rounds, I mean 2 like sections or whatever.
Ja, er ist der coolest.
So I'm gonna explain it as we do it. Alright, let's do a reset. Alright, there's already 4 people.
You're gonna ruin it.
So I'm just gonna explain it as we go because I'm the streamer. I feel like I should be doing this just to make sure that everyone's doing it the way I like to. That way I don't start any arguments.
Ja, du darfst.
Alright.
Mein Deutsch ist nicht so gut, so
the first. Oh, hey, that's perfect timing. Alright, so you have to touch the back wall of info. All the color monkeys, we don't go out yet. We have to all be here first.
Nein, wer ist das?
It's not Jolly OG, it's Jolly OG. So Lava Monkey, you have to touch the back wall of info. That's your house. I'm gonna ring the doorbell first, you can ring the doorbell second if you survive. So now once all the color monkeys are inside the shelf, we have to leave the mall. I'm ringing the bell. So I'm ringing the bell first, so if that, I can hear everyone. I'm just talking you guys through. I can hear everyone. So everyone is outside. So now, when I ring this doorbell, you have to be touching the wall first. You have to be touching the wall.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then when the wall, not the board.
Leute.
And then when I ring this, when I touch this, you have to go through the door, not the window. Those are the only 2 things that people forget. So I do this, and ding dong. Now this is a real round as well. I'm just talking you guys through it. So I made it here, so you cannot tag me because I'm already here.
Hey, weggehen bitte. Dies ist mein Haus. Aus! Raus mein Haus!
Wait, if I'm last, don't tag me. Don't tag me if I'm last. Even if I'm last, don't tag me. Because I want to do the final, the lava versus color round. Alright, I don't send people through live streams for interactions. So everyone go to info. I'm the last color, but do not tag me. Do not tag me. We're gonna do the color versus lava challenge. That's where the last color monkey surviving goes against all of the lava monkeys. So actually, everyone go on top of info.
So the first one is do
Not
this
inside,
the
sorry,
hard
on top of info. Like on top of the roof of info.
Okay. Like you suck.
Alright, and like back up a bit.
And the other one is V Gates.
Now,
Dig up.
yeah, I think like right on that corner where those two are is good.
V Gates,
Right there.
dig up.
Alright, that's good. So what happens is I press info, and you guys give me a 5-second countdown. Alright, when you make it to 0, you have to start chasing. So when the countdown starts, I run. When the countdown ends, you guys chase. There is no using the crack in the window. That is not allowed for this final round. And so I'll answer your question in a second. So what I have to do, since I'm the final color monkey, I have to go into any shelf on the 2nd floor or 3rd floor if I want to give myself a challenge. Alright?
Okay.
What is your question?
Trying his best. Auf Wiedersehen. Yeah, Dankeschön is just like you suck. Right?
I mean, yeah, so far you've been listening the most, except for when I told you to go on the info earlier, but that wasn't your fault because you took off your headset and you couldn't hear me or something. So yeah, you can be like a co-host or something. Like
You say
that guy asked first, and his originality means he gets it. So that was an accident. It's alright. I saw you turning around trying to avoid me, so it's perfectly fine. Just everyone get tagged again. You can like just remind people. But yeah, everyone except for me, because someone accidentally tagged me, we have to redo the final round.
This is heated, yeah.
I'm the streamer, and yeah, Pink Monk Guy Shirt is the host. So everyone go on top of info. You two co-hosts, because like I'm playing the minigame. I think you should too, unless you don't want to play the minigame. But so everyone go back to where you were a second ago. Alright. Now that everyone's tagged, everyone go back on. Right where the pink shirt is. You remember the spot. That's good. What is your question?
Yeah, right? Like these are all
smack I was talking to that guy.
You just ripped him to pieces. I don't know what. Yeah. What a digger. Yeah. Oh, careful with that. Careful saying that. Just like.
Well, if the co-host leaves, then the next one is the guy that asked second, which is what is it? Tracker? Or what did you change your name to? Yeah. So you're the second co-host after the main co-host leaves for this stream.
Das ist mir Wurst. Yeah, das ist mir Wurst.
What?
Yeah. So that's like if someone tells you something sad.
Alright,
If I said like.
Alright. So what's your question?
Das ist mir Wurst. Okay.
Okay, my question is, after this, can we
It just
go
means
play
like my
basement
sympathies,
into the
like I'm sorry, like that sucks.
Bro, you lost tracking. That is alright. I saw you lost tracking. Alright.
Do guys have a room? No wait, you guys.
Alright, so just everyone get tagged again. Let's try that one last time.
It kind of sounds like watermelon, right?
Don't tag me. Don't tag me. Everyone else get tagged because we still have to do the final round. I think it's really fun, and I really want you guys to at least look at it to see if you guys like it or not. I never knew there was a siren here. That's cool. Anyways. So, everyone get in the same spot you were earlier.
Say it again. He didn't hear you.
Wait. Alright, just had to check. So, everyone has to get in that same spot. Golden Mask is good. Like where Golden Mask is standing, maybe behind him, that's like good. But like to the side of him, like where I'm standing right now, there's like a little standing post. Like try to get between that. Like don't go outside of those two posts. and then and don't go in front of them either.
Hallo,
Like
Sabrina.
right where you guys are, except for top hats, are good. Oh, well, yeah, like that's not good because that's outside of the post. There's two like gray metal posts. That's like a brown, light brown post. I'm talking about the gray metal post. That is a 2.
Ja, hey, das ist okay.
Alright.
Das ist ja 2000.
So yeah, everyone get in the spot. Stop. Please stop jumping down because when you jump down, the others think they can too. It's just like makes a whole mess. You have to go where they are. How about this? If you're not going in the right spot, then just stand there and don't play the minigame. Because I really want you guys to have fun. Because I really want to have fun too. So please, like, stop doing that. That is exactly what I'm saying. Go inside.
Ich bring dich
That is not a post. That is like a,
Ich bring dich
I don't know, a 2 or something. I mean, we can, but we have to start when that guy gets in the right spot. He's not paying attention.
Jefferson, move!
You have to go between those 2 posts. Yeah, go up there with them. So I'm just gonna explain the rules of this final round one last time because there's a few new players. So when I touch the blue sign, oh wait, oh there's no. When I touch the metal frame of the blue sign, you start counting. I'll count to 5, and when I actually, yeah, I'll count to 5, and then when I'm done counting to 5, then you guys have to start chasing me, and then I have to make it to either any bookshelf on the 2nd row or the 3rd row if I want more of a challenge. So that's pretty much it. I think everyone except for someone up there. Co-host, can you go back, please? I'm about to touch the sign.
Hey, wo ist the
All right, so.
Where the
Yo, hey, can you, yeah, go up there. So, I'm just gonna say this again. You see those, like, posts right there? There's, like, 2 of them. They're gray. That's not a post, that's a 2. It's the gray one, not the light brown, the gray one. The gray one that almost, yeah, that one. The one that almost everyone is in. Go behind that post. Stay on the roof. So, but don't go outside. Like, that is outside of the post. Unless you're not playing, it's alright. Alright, so you're not gonna be playing for this round?
Yeah, Deutsch
Alright,
Lobby
so, what is your
is
question?
schwul.
Do you guys want
I
to
don't
do
know how to do
Come
that.
here. Here, Kanan, come.
So let's start.
Alright,
Alright, so remember, I touch that, and then I do the 5-second countdown, and then you guys start chasing, alright?
Alle die Wörter bedeutet.
5,
Kanan, you
4,
ready to know what the
3,
words mean?
2,
That you've been saying this whole
1,
time?
chase.
Okay. Kenna deine Mutter. I know your mom. That's it.
Wait. Wait, I said that to a kid and he said I know.
I made it.
Yeah, well, there might be more to that than we know.
I won.
You might be some
I mean,
kids'
the 3rd
father.
floor.
Okay.
I made it.
You've been heist
I
is
won.
I'm horny.
Now I run
You
forward.
had me saying that to kids all day.
What? Not to kids. Well, yeah, to kids.
Oh,
it's more of a,
Jegu.
most people think it just means I'm hot to most people, but it can mean
Jegu.
So it's a double.
All right. Now let's play the. Now let's go back to normal.
When you were saying ich bin schwul und heiß, that was just
We're playing. So that was an extra final round that I added to the game. I don't think it's an original thing, but it's just something I added.
I am hot and gay.
No. We're not playing Color either. We're playing Ding Dong Ditch.
That's why that one kid was laughing and couldn't stop laughing. Oh,
So
what is that, guys?
I'm just
What is
gonna.
that?
I'm gonna bring it because I win for the first round, and then we're gonna do like a rotation. So everyone has to
What is
leave
Du bist der
them all.
Hammer?
Like, you're awesome. We switched it, so we did all the good words that told you they meant
Come
bad
on.
stuff.
What is
Come
wie
on,
geht's
everybody,
Digga?
come on, let's go. Now I'm gonna do the ring, so if you guys
just
ring
means,
it,
like,
guys
dude.
count.
It's
That
What
guy,
did
I
you think he was
think that
gonna
guy's
do?
leaving. Let's ignore him. Alright, so you have to be touching the back
yeah.
wall.
What'd you think it was?
Don't tag anyone. Don't tag anyone. Alright. All lava monkeys can go inside of info. We're not doing
Okay,
any
follow
starting.
K9
No,
and subscribe to
none.
K9.
Alright, all lava monkeys go inside
That was a good
info.
reminder. Thank you.
All your subscriptions are mine.
I think the last one is Das ist mir
No.
Furst. which directly translated means that is.
Oh, well, if
that's
someone was
Christian,
griefing, then yeah, we
but
can
it's just
restart
like,
now.
it's basically
I didn't know that
like,
someone was griefing.
I don't get like, but it's more than I don't care.
Remember, everyone stay separated, so that way there's only one lava
You
monkey.
heard that kid's
Alright,
mom
now
died.
everyone get out of the lava monkey's
I
way.
don't care less.
Lava monkey has to go to the info box. Now, all the color monkeys have to go right here. Not above, not under. You have to go like right on this part of the stuff.
Everyone, say good job, K9, and give him
Come on.
a round of applause. Everyone, clap. Yeah, wait.
Yeah. Subscribe to K9. I'm
Alright, we're
Yeah,
playing Ding Dong Ditch, so just touch the back wall of the info. Now, just remember, one thing people keep forgetting is you have to leave through the door, not the window.
Ja,
The door.
ich bin heiß und schwul.
Alright, so all the lava, no, they don't have to turn. No, bro, we didn't even do it yet. We didn't even do it yet. We didn't even do the ding dong. Like, no, there was only one person
Tell me if this
outside.
sounds familiar. You're just casually playing Super
Don't
Mario
tag
64
anybody.
when all of a sudden
Don't tag
you
anyone.
hit something.
Just go in
But
the
what you'll
info.
hit,
That person
because
just
that
joined and
person
didn't
But
know.
for some reason, the game
Don't
considers
tag that
you
guy.
hitting something in that spot. So this is what we call an invisible wall, and there are many of them in the game. Now,
Just
for
go
most
over the
people,
info,
invisible walls
please.
are like
Just,
this mysterious,
I don't want
elusive
you to
thing.
become
You
a
may have seen
weak.
clips like this.
Alright, so remember, not over there, not up here. It has to be this one directly.
Or like this.
Like this shelf directly.
I got the visible wall.
Exactly.
Or like this.
Alright, so every single color monkey, every fish in the sea. Anyway, so all the color monkeys have to leave the mall. You can be here, you can be here, but you cannot go
Or
up
like
there.
this.
Alright? So you two, and then I do the ding dong because I do the ding dong for the first one. So if they do the ding
Why
dong,
do
it
all
doesn't
these strange
count
interactions
until the
happen?
next
For
round, and
decades,
then I will
invisible walls
choose.
have tormented players,
So,
messing up runs and causing
Ding
tons of
dong,
confusion.
now you guys have to
Because
chase us
nobody really seems
and try to
know
get us
what
unless
invisible
we're on the
walls are
shelf.
or why
If
they're
we're
there.
inside of this
So,
side of the
I
big
made
shelf.
it my mission to answer that and put an end
Alright,
to
well,
the
I think I
confusion.
got
So
AFK,
come with
so
me on
I
this
don't think
journey
it'll
as
matter
we
if you
delve
tag
into
or
the
not.
deep, dark inner heart of invisible
So,
walls. This is Invisible Walls Explained.
we have a
once and
warrior.
for all.
Alright. So now all the lava monkeys have to go. As soon as you
Before we
get
get
tagged,
to
you come
invisible
back. That's
walls,
crazy.
there's some
Alright, so
basic
everyone has to go to
fundamentals
the
of Super
info.
Mario 64
All
that
the
we
color
need to go
monkeys, not
over
the, not the.
So,
I mean, no, all the lava.
geometry
I
is
misspoke. I
made up of surface
misspoke.
triangles,
There's still a lava
which
out
you
here.
can see here. Now, there are three different types of
Wait,
surface
are you playing
triangles.
Ding Dong Ditch,
First,
or are you
there are
just gonna sit
floors.
there?
Floors are the triangles that you can stand on, and in visuals, we color them blue. Second, there are
Alright,
walls.
so go
Walls are the
inside the
triangles
info. We're
that
playing
you
Ding
can
Dong
push,
Ditch.
punch, kick, and wall jump off of. We color them green.
Alright,
And third,
now
there are
you get to do
ceilings.
the Ding Dong
Ceilings are the
because
triangles
you want
that if
you.
you
Wait,
jump
not
up
yet,
into
not yet,
them,
not yet.
they'll
Alright,
cut
now
short
you.
your upwards trajectory. And some ceilings even let you hang on them and swing around. We color ceilings red. Now, one important property of a triangle is its normal vector. Think of a
Hey, you
triangle's
can't tag
normal
us.
vector as an arrow that juts out
That was a
perpendicularly
close
from the
call.
triangle.
Like, you just walked up to me and called me. That was one close call. Alright, go back to the info. Remember to touch. Remember, you have to touch the back wall of info, and you have to go through the door, not the
See,
window.
even these triangles count as floors because their normal
What?
vectors point just a tiny bit upwards. On the other hand, if the normal vector is pointing downwards at all, then the triangle is a ceiling. So
What?
even these ones are ceilings because their normal vectors
What
point
does
just a
Tina
tiny
got
bit
me?
downwards. And finally, if the normal vector is pointing exactly sideways or extremely close to exactly sideways, then the
That
triangle
guy
is a
died.
wall. So now you know
Alright,
the three
everyone go
kinds
to
of
info.
triangles: floors, walls, and ceilings.
Also,
whose normal
unless,
vectors point upwards,
until, or
sideways, and
unless that
downwards,
guy comes
respectively.
back,
Note that
tracking is
here
the
I'm
new
showing the
co-host.
triangles from the side, so they just look like lines from this angle. Now we're going to talk about
Alright,
the
come on,
triangle
White.
hitboxes, aka how
Hey,
these
hey,
triangles
hey,
affect
hey,
Mario
hey,
in the area around them. So let's start with floors. A floor's hitbox
Go back to
extends
info,
78
buddy.
units below the floor, and its effect is that
No,
it
it's
snaps
still
Mario
says
up
check.
onto the floor. So
Go
we can
back
see
to
that as
info,
Mario
everyone.
enters the hitbox, he gets
Remember,
snapped up. But now let's make
touch
this
the
visually
back
more
wall of
precise.
info,
You see,
not the
Mario's
leaderboard.
position is the point at the
Not
bottom
the
center
board
of his
info,
model,
the
which I
back
represent
wall.
with this symbol.
And
when I
you
talk
cannot
about
leave
Mario
through the
entering a
window.
hitbox,
So
it's purely
this
about
is
whether
the
the point at
window.
the bottom
Don't think
center
through
of
there.
the
Leave
model
through this.
enters
This
the
is the door.
hitbox, not just any
So you
point
are
in
gonna
this
do the
model
ding dong
entering
because
the
I did it the
hitbox.
first
Also,
round.
Mario
Kate
doesn't move
died,
around
but he did it
continuously,
the
but in
other
discrete
round. So now you do
chunks,
it
which
this
I'll
way.
represent with yellow
Remember,
arrows.
the
So
door,
let's watch
not
it
the
again.
window.
Mario moves to the right, one arrow at a time, and now he's about to enter the floor hitbox. So on the next step, Mario enters the floor
Bro, you're
hitbox
just
and
the
then gets
warriors
snapped
who
up
built
onto
this
the
town,
floor.
like that one
In other
Imagine
words,
Dragons
those
song.
two arrows happen on the same step, so we never actually see Mario below the floor. Here's what a floor snap looks
Just
like
stay,
in the
just
game.
don't move, don't
Mario
move.
walks towards the wooden
Alright,
post and then
now
steps
go
up
back
onto
to
it.
info.
If we have multiple floors in a row, then Mario would
For a
snap
second
up
I
onto
did
the
too,
floor.
but then I realized
So
that it was
time
too far away
increases
to
each time he
do.
reaches a new step. That's how climbing stairs
Alright, I think
works in the
somebody
game.
might have just
And if
joined.
the
We're
floor is
playing
at an
Ding Dong
angle,
Ditch.
then Mario will
Now,
step
one
up each
thing
time he
that
moves.
some
So in this
people
case,
don't
his height
know,
increases continuously, and that's
oh,
how ramps
did
work in the
another
game.
just join?
Though, note that floors will also snap Mario
Wait,
downwards
is your
to some
name
extent, so
Walter
that
White?
walking downhill works too. Now
Oh
let's
no, it's
talk
Walter
about
White. I thought it
the
was
wall
Walter.
hitbox extends out
No,
50
careful,
units
careful.
on both
Alright, we're playing
sides.
Ding Dong
It's
Ditch,
all
so
set
go
to be a
inside it.
little
Go
lower
inside
down
the
than
back
the wall
wall.
triangle itself. Its effect is that it pushes
And
Mario
here's one
sideways
thing
in
that
the
not many
direction of
people
the triangle's
remember
normal
is
vector,
that you have
which
to
in
go
this
through the
case is to
door.
the left.
You cannot
So
go
we
through the
can see
window.
that
You
as
have to go
Mario
through the
enters
door,
this hitbox,
and you
he
can
gets
and you have to
displaced
be touching the
sideways,
back
putting
wall
him
until
exactly
someone
flush
rings
with
the
the
bell.
wall's hitbox and also
And
putting
the
him into the
board,
pushing
the
animation.
board
Just
does
like
not
before,
touch the
the
back
arrow for
wall.
Mario
If
going
you're
into the
not
hitbox
playing,
and the
then
arrow
get in
for
the
Mario being
corner.
pushed out of
If
the
you're not
hitbox
playing,
happen on
get
the
in the
same
corner. If
step.
you are
So we
playing,
don't
just
actually
follow
see
the rules.
Mario
So
inside
I'll
of
be
the
doing the
wall.
ding dong
And so
because
now, if
Walter
Mario just
Walter
keeps walking
White
into the wall
did it last
hitbox,
time.
then he ends up pushing against the wall in a
Ding
state
dong,
of equilibrium. Like
Somebody
on every
wasn't
step,
touching
he
the
goes
back
a
wall.
little into the wall,
But
then
I'll
gets
allow
pushed
it
out
because
a
I wasn't
distance,
paying
then goes a
attention when I
little
ding
into the
dong.
wall, then
Alright,
gets
go
pushed
back.
out a
Hey,
distance,
hey,
etc.
no
So
touchy,
that's what's going
no,
on when you push
no
against the
touchy.
wall in the game. So even though Mario's position is 50 units away from the wall triangle, it still looks like he's touching the wall because his
I
model
almost
is
just
about
got
50
tagged.
units in radius. In
Now go
contrast,
to
if
go.
Mario enters the wall hitbox from the other
in this
side, then he gets a big
in this
push
way.
from the wall. Because this time
You're the
he gets
co-host,
displaced
but
almost
you're
all
not
the
you're not
100-unit
like
diameter
special
of the
enough to
wall
be
hitbox.
standing here.
Here's what
That
looks
is
like in the
kinda
game.
almost
So
briefing.
you're not normally meant to go into a wall from that side. And then for ceilings, their
Alright,
hitbox
now
extends
you
from
do the ding dong.
160 units
Okay,
below the
Jigsaw?
ceiling to
Jogging,
infinitely
jogging,
upwards.
jogging.
Now the lower portion and upper portion have the same effect, but what effect that is actually varies based on what action
Eat the
Mario's
ding
in.
dong.
So let's go
Eat
through
my
the different
ding
actions. First, if Mario's on the
Remember, you
ground,
have to touch
the
the
ceiling
wall.
hitbox cancels
You have to
his
touch the
movement.
wall
So you
until
can
he
see that
ding
as
dongs.
Mario tries
The
to enter
back
the
wall.
hitbox, his movement
The
gets
back
canceled
wall,
out,
you
which
little
prevents him
dumb,
from
you
entering the
little
ceiling
dumb
hitbox.
goober.
And he
You
also
little
does the
goofy
pushing
odd
animation
jiggle
when this
dog.
happens. Here's what that looks like in the
You
game.
little
So
chick.
note
No,
that
don't
even
tag
when
him, don't
Mario's
tag him, don't tag him. We
160
still have
units
to do the
below the
final
ceiling
round.
triangle,
We
it
still have to do
basically
the
looks
color
like his
versus
head is
lava
touching the
round.
ceiling because
Where
his
the-
model is
get
just
over
under
here.
160 units tall. Second, if Mario's
on.
in the air and tries to enter
Come
a
on,
ceiling
little buddy.
hitbox,
Come
then what
on, little
happens depends on
5-year-old.
whether he's moving
Even though you're
upwards
too
or
young for a
downwards.
VR headset,
If
I'm
he
not
enters the
now.
ceiling
So
hitbox while
everyone
moving
come like
upwards,
right
then his
here,
movement
pause.
gets canceled and his vertical
So,
speed gets set to 0.
pretty much,
This cuts short
here's
his
the thing,
upwards
right?
trajectory,
So,
since from that point on he'll start moving downwards.
everyone has to go. So you see this gray post right here? You have to go behind the post, and you have to go between the
only
posts.
applying it when it's
So like
relevant to the
between
point
it,
you're making.
you cannot
So
go
here's
over
jumping
here.
up into a
You
ceiling
cannot
in
go
the
over
game.
here. You have to be
It
like
cuts
this,
short
and you have to be
Mario's upwards
behind the
movement,
post.
and then he
So you
falls
cannot
down
be here.
afterwards.
You have to be
On the
over
other
here.
hand,
And you have to
if
be
he
on
enters a
top
ceiling
of
hitbox
the
while
of the
moving
info.
downwards, then only the
So
horizontal
pretty much,
component of his
don't
movement
tag
gets
white.
canceled,
So you have to
he
be
just
over
does the
here.
vertical component,
You
which
have
is
to be
moving
over
straight
here.
down.
You went
Like,
past
ceilings
it.
aren't going to cancel
You
the
went
whole
past it,
movement because that will
Pokemon.
let you hover in the air. And I have a hunch the programmers
You
didn't want that. So
you
here's
don't
what
touch the
falling
side.
into
You
a
have to touch
ceiling
the
looks
frame
like in the
because
game.
the
It
side
cancels
has no
Mario's
hitbox.
horizontal movement movement to prevent him from going inside the ceiling hitbox, but he still falls down.
Yeah, so,
And then third,
wait.
Mario's
So,
in
there's
water,
two
and the
ways you
ceiling
can do this.
hitbox
You have to
doesn't
tell us
cancel his
before you do
movement,
it.
but
You can
instead
either go to
snaps him down
second
to the
floor
bottom
and
of
we
the
give you a
ceiling
3-second
hitbox. So we
countdown
can
for
see
you to
that as
run,
Mario
or if you want
enters
to
the
go to the
hitbox, he
third
gets
floor,
snapped down.
we give
Here's
you
what that
a
looks like in the
5-second
game.
countdown,
Mario
and you
snaps
cannot
down as
use
soon as he
you
enters the
cannot
ceiling
use the hole in
hitbox.
his
And if the
glass.
ceiling is at an angle, then Mario
For
snaps
either of
down
them.
each time he moves forwards. So for example, if I swim into
So
the
which one are
ship,
you
I
gonna
get
do?
moved downwards accordingly. Now, you may find it strange that ceiling hitboxes
Alright, third
extend
floor.
infinitely
Alright, so
upwards.
that's
Like,
a
if the ceiling
5-second
triangle's
countdown.
right here, then why should it have an effect way up here? Well, the thing is, most
Yeah.
of the time, you only have access to the lower
5,
portion of the hitbox.
4,
The upper portion
3,
is usually out of reach, and so you
2,
wouldn't notice
1,
its effects.
go!
In fact, ceilings
Some
typically
people left
fall
a
into
bit
one of
early.
two cases. Case 1, we're in an enclosed room, so the hitboxes look like this. In this case, the hitboxes prevent you from exiting the room. Like, if you try to exit downwards,
You
the floor
win!
snaps you back
Now
up.
all you have to
If
do
you
is
try to
run
exit
through your life
sideways, the
for
wall
3 seconds.
pushes you back in.
Hey,
If
you
you
had
try
me
to
let
exit
it run through
upwards,
his
the
life
ceiling
for 3
cancels your
seconds.
movement and cuts short your upwards trajectory.
Alright,
So
now
in
we're
this
gonna
case,
play a
it
different
keeps you
minigame. We're gonna
inside,
play
and so
Angry
you never
Birds.
normally be all the way up here interacting with the upper ceiling
Everyone
hitbox.
go
And
to
then
the
case
mountains.
2, there's
You
an
all
enclosed
know what
structure
it
called
is.
a box. So the hitboxes look
He's
like
in the
this.
house.
Now, I said ceiling hitboxes extend infinitely upwards, but
What?
that's just what they do in isolation. Because you see, when there's a floor above the ceiling, then the ceiling hitbox only extends upwards until it meets
Alright.
the floor hitbox. So you can see that the inside of this box
You
is
little
filled
ding dong,
with the
ding
upper
dong, you
portion
beat
of
my
the
goat.
ceiling hitbox.
Alright, come on.
And once again, this upper
Come on,
portion
everyone,
is
get in your spot.
inaccessible
Come
since
on,
there's no
everybody.
way
Just
to enter the
a layer
box.
of shot.
Like, if you try
Just
to
like
enter
me with
going
your mom.
downwards, the floor snaps you back up. If you try to enter going sideways, the wall pushes you
What
back
do you
out.
mean? What
If
do you
you
mean
try
with
to
your
enter
mother?
going
What?
upwards, the ceiling cancels your movement and cuts short your upwards trajectory. So in this case, the box keeps you out, and so you'd
Alright.
never normally be inside of it interacting with the upper ceiling hitbox. One other note,
Alright,
you can
so
see that the
everybody
triangle
get
hitbox
tagged,
is
so
split
Lava
back into some
Monkeys,
pieces, which
just
brings
go
into
down the
question
slide.
which ones take priority. Well, that's actually
Lava
pretty
Monkeys,
simple.
no,
Wall
the blue
interactions
slide,
happen
not the
first,
pink
so
slide
their
that used to be
hitbox is on the
purple.
top layer,
The blue
then
slide.
floor interactions, so they're on the next layer, and then ceiling interactions, so they're on the bottom layer.
Alright, everyone
Now,
has to get tagged, so just run to this Lava Monkey and then get
there are
tagged.
still some ways to enter a ceiling hitbox.
Don't run
like
away.
having an
If you
object
run
push
away,
you
you're
into it.
griefing.
For
If you hide
example,
away
here
from
I
me,
have
you
a
are
bob
griefing.
bomb push me into a ceiling
And being a
hitbox,
grief
specifically
means
the
you
ceiling
don't
on the
shout.
other side of the cog. So now I'm actually stuck because the ceiling cancels any
No,
movement.
no, that's
and it won't let me
disrespectful.
jump up either. Separately, here's what it looks like to enter a ceiling hitbox in the
You
air.
can't do
Mario
beat them
just falls
TikTok
straight
dudes.
down since
Bro, who
any
is not
sideways
tagged?
movement gets canceled. And so there, we actually did touch the
Bro,
upper
everyone
portion
has to
of the
get
ceiling
tagged.
hitbox because we entered above the ceiling of the tunnel. So anyway,
Alright.
now we know the hitboxes
Now,
are the 3 types of triangles. But there's one other hitbox
So
that's
you
also important,
have to
which
go
is
up
out of
there.
bounds. Now the term out of bounds
Alright,
can
I'll
mean
go
different things
with you, I'll go
depending on
with
the
you.
context. Like, a person might say that getting right here is out of bounds.
No, I don't
because
have
this
to
isn't
do their
somewhere that
streams
you're
unless
intended to go in the course.
unless I
But
trust
that's not
them
what
and
we
they're
mean
good
in this
people.
case. See, the most useful way to define out of bounds
But
is
I,
any
but
plane
you
of
haven't
space
really,
with
I
no
haven't
floor
known you
triangle
long enough to
below.
have an
So if our
actual
entire
good
course was just
assumption
one
on who
floor
you are.
triangle,
So
then all of
green,
this
you have to
area
get on
would
top
be
of
out
the
of bounds.
slide.
So that's everything to the side of the triangle and below it.
Oh,
just
alright,
not
I guess
above
green
it.
is
Think about it like
coming with
this.
us then.
The default state of space is
So,
out of bounds, and floors create safe havens above them. Also note that we
No,
color
you
out of
tagged.
bounds
You were
gray
ahead of
and
me
give it
on
this
the-
symbol,
on the-
and you'll see why in a
You went
moment.
through him.
Now, for the most part, Mario
think.
isn't allowed to
So
enter
pretty
out of
much,
bounds.
uh,
If he's on the
for-
ground and tries to enter out of bounds, then his
Well, I'm
movement
gonna,
gets
I
canceled
have,
on
I want
pushes,
to test
just like
something
with
real quick.
ceilings.
I don't know.
An easy
if-
place to see this is on the
it's
castle
going-
roof. Just walk up to the edge
I
and
wanna
Mario
just
will
see.
start
Oh,
pushing.
wait, that is
If
actually.
Mario's in the air and tries to enter out
alright.
of bounds, then the horizontal component
have to
of his movement
update.
gets canceled, and so he only does the vertical component. So unlike ceilings, this happens for both upwards and downwards movement.
Alright, guys.
That means you can jump up against
So-
out of bounds without it cutting short your upwards trajectory. And finally, if Mario's in
So,
water and tries to enter out of bounds, then his movement just
Every
gets
lot,
canceled.
so
There's
pretty
not
much the
another place where
boundaries
this
for
happens in
you
the
guys
game.
to
But
stand
if you click
still
into the tunnel
is
in the trailer,
so
like we
white.
did earlier,
I'm gonna make
then
you
you
go,
fall
and
into
I'm
the
gonna tell
tunnel
you when to
after
stop,
the
and that's
building
gonna be the
zone.
boundary
Because
for
of
that.
that, the town section of the
So
level
white,
isn't
go
open,
that way,
and so you can just swim into the end of the
and
tunnel.
the white
This
with
is
the
swimming
party
into
hat.
out of bounds, so
We're
Mario's
playing Angry
movement gets
Birds.
canceled, and he just ends up swimming in place. So the reason Mario's not able to jump off of courses
So
like
pretty
Lava
much,
Battlefield is because you
the
can't
color
enter the
monkeys,
bounds.
so we,
There's no
the
actual
lava
wall
monkeys
triangles
have
on the
to,
edges
don't
of
do
this
it yet,
courses
right?
keeping
We
it
haven't
in.
started
And for
yet.
courses
So
with
all
depth
the,
barriers
all the
like
color
Cool
monkeys have to
Mountain, the reason you
spread
can jump
out
off of these courses is because
across
the depth barrier itself
across
is made up of
the,
floor triangles.
so blue,
Here's a
you
zoomed out
have
view of the
past
whole
the
course.
boundary,
So you
so
can
the
see that
boundary is
depth
the
barrier
beginning
is
of
made up
that
of
glass,
floor
the other
triangles
side of
for
that
the main
glass,
part of
blue.
the course. And then
The
here's a
other,
side view
no,
of the two
it's that that side of that
So Cool
glass.
Cool Mountain has a
The
death
first
barrier
boundary
below it, while Bob on
is is where
field
blue
does
just
work.
went
The
to,
death barrier
and the
creates a
second
safe
boundary
haven all around the
is
course,
where
making
blue
that
just
area
touched, which is
habitable.
that part of
So
that
that's why in
glass.
Cool Mountain, you can jump off the course and go below it, whereas you can't do that
So
in
you
Baja
just have to be
Valley.
between the
Now,
two
it is
top
technically
glass.
possible to enter
That's
out of
pretty
bounds,
much it.
but it's even harder to do than entering a ceiling hitbox. Like our
And you
old trick
cannot
of getting
be
pushed by an
behind the
object
tree.
doesn't
That's the
work in
only
this
other
case,
thing. You
because
cannot
the
be
game
behind the
knows
tree.
not to apply the object push.
Alright,
so it
you
would
have to
put Mario
stand
out of
still
bounds.
until
But
all the
nevertheless,
lava
there
monkeys
are
go
still some
down.
ways to do it.
Once all
For
the
example,
lava
we
monkeys
can
make
enter
it
out
back
of
up
bounds by
here,
doing
you
a
guys
ledge
can
grab in
change
this
spots
corner
or
and then
stay in
climb
the same
up.
spot.
We can jump into a cork box next to a steep hill. We can have the ground move out from
Yeah,
under
so
Mario,
we have to go
which
down
is
this
done
blue
here
slide
using the
one
merry-go-round
time,
floor.
and then we
we
have
can have
to
Chuck
come back
throw
up here, and we
Mario
have to
around.
stand right
As you
here
can see in each of
until
these
all the
cases,
lava
Mario
monkeys
dies when
are
he goes out
like
of bounds, which is
around
why we
like
give out of
this.
bounds the skull and
Alright?
crossbones.
And then once
But
all
also
the
when
lava
this
monkeys
happens,
are
Mario
on this
stops having
post,
his hat on.
like-
You get
like
it back
starting-
after you respawn. Now
starting
everyone
here,
always
starting
wonders,
here,
why does
and
going
then
out
the
of
next
bounds
lava
make
monkey goes
Mario
here and
lose his
here
hat?
until
Let me
all the lava
explain.
monkeys are lined
See,
up on the
Mario's
post.
logic every frame
And then
goes like
depending
this.
on who was
First, it
first
resets
in
his
line,
hat
they
state,
go down
so
and
he'll
try
be
to
in
get
the state
the
of having no hat. Then it lets Mario do
Also,
his
just
action,
one
like
more
say,
thing.
one frame
If you
of
get
walking
tagged on
forward.
top of the
And
slide,
finally,
you
it
do
updates
not
his hat
tag
state to be
anyone
how it's
else
supposed
on
to
the
be,
slide.
which gives him
You
his hat
just
again.
jump off
And
the
so it's
slide
happening
and try to
on by
get
the
over
time it
here
gets rendered.
and get in
So
the
that's what
line.
normally happens every
Alright,
frame.
so
But
since
between
I'm
steps one
the
and two,
streamer,
there's
I'm
a
gonna
check.
go first.
Specifically, it checks if Mario's out of bounds. And if so,
So
then
we're
done with
starting.
the
So
function.
everyone
Don't
get
do
in your
the rest of the
spots.
steps.
3,
So let's say Mario's
2,
currently out of bounds.
1,
Now let's walk
stop
through the
moving.
steps to see what happens.
White
First,
with
it
the
resets
party
his
hat,
hat
you're not
state,
allowed to
which
go
makes him
behind the
have no
tree.
hat. Then the check ends the whole function since Mario's out of bounds.
Yeah,
So we never even get
anyone
to
can
step
play.
3 where it puts his
Well,
hat back
it's a
on.
live
So we
stream.
just see Mario.
Alright, so
without his
everyone
hat.
has to
In
stop
other
moving
words,
on the
we're seeing
slide,
the
and now
intermediate
I'm
state of
gonna go
things that we're
first.
not
We have to go
normally
one by
supposed to
one.
see. So anyway, now we know
are
the
you
four
the only
types of
other two lava
hitboxes:
monkeys?
floors,
Others and
walls,
others.
ceilings, and out of bounds. Now
Alright,
you may have noticed
so
that there's a bit
you
of a
lava
similarity
monkey that's on
between
top of the
walls,
pink
ceilings,
slide,
and
you
out
have
of
to
bounds,
stand in this
because they all
corner,
basically block
and
Mario's
then
horizontal
tracking,
movement.
you have to
Let's do a
stand here.
side-by-side comparison.
So that
On the
guy,
left, we'll have Mario interact with a wall hitbox. In the center, we'll have Mario interact with a ceiling hitbox.
Alright, so pretty
And
much-
on the right, we'll have Mario
I'm not gonna
interact
call
with
you guys
out of
that.
bounds.
I'm just gonna
Just
call
to
you
clarify the ceiling case, there weren't
D20
many
because
ceilings that worked
I
well
have a
for this
D20
visual,
on your
but I
chest.
did find one.
Alright,
See,
so just
my
D20
player
and tracking,
looked
that's what I'm
behind this
calling it
pillar,
from now.
did a backwards
So
long jump,
D20,
and then used
white,
the
you have
speed
to
clip
go
behind
on
upstairs
the
door.
slide
Now,
over
opening
there.
that door loads a new
Oh, he might
area.
have fallen.
So by clipping behind it, we end up
He
in this
doesn't know
sort
how
of
to
fake
do it.
area that you're not
Oh, he
meant
has
to
to
be
do
in.
that.
There's not many surface
So
triangles here,
tracking,
despite what
you
the
will go
visuals
after
show.
me,
So that means
and
we
then
can go to the edge of the
D20
floor
will
and
go
push
after
directly on the
tracking.
ceiling hitbox.
Alright, so everyone stop
Specifically, the
moving.
ceiling of the hallway below that has the boo in it.
Alright, and now
So
we
I
have
just
to
wanted
go
to
after
clarify
you.
that. So now let's
You're
compare the
D20.
three cases. If Mario just
Alright.
walks forward,
So
and
now
in all
I'm
three
gonna go
cases,
down
he
like
stays
this.
in place doing the
Remember,
pushing
no
animation.
moving, trying to
Here's a
go.
diagram from above. See, the wall hitbox
Aw,
lets him
man,
go
I
into
just
it
barely
and then
missed
pushes
it.
him back
Now,
out.
you
which makes him
still
be
don't
much
move.
more
You don't
hitbox.
move
But
still.
the ceiling and out of bounds hitboxes just cancel the
Alright,
movement.
now
So you
all
don't
three
have
of
to be
the
flush with those
lava
hitboxes.
monkeys
But now watch
have
what
to go
happens if we
before
try
you guys
pushing at an
can.
angle instead of head on. In the wall case, we do a
So
sidestepping
now,
animation.
yeah, now
but in
it's
the ceiling
tracking
and
that
bounce
goes.
cases, we still push,
Oh,
but now
tracking
at
already
an
went?
angle. See,
Alright.
the wall hitbox
Now it's
lets you enter the
D20
hitbox
and then
at
you're
an
next.
angle, then
Alright.
pushes you out
So
perpendicularly, which
I
lets you
go
move
here,
along the edge of the hitbox.
and then-
But the ceiling and out of
and then-
bounds hitboxes still
You
just
can
cancel
go
the
after
movement,
Scar.
so you don't end up moving along their edges. So to recap so far, the pushing animation
So
isn't
wait.
actually specific to
Alright,
walls.
so
It
tracking-
can happen to
tracking.
ceilings and out of
You
bounds
go
too.
here.
Though the
We
sidestepping
have to keep the
animation
same
is
order.
specific to walls.
So now
let's see
where's
what happens when we
D20?
jump into these three hitboxes. For the wall and out of bounds, the jump goes
It's
all the way
new
up.
people
But in
join
the
the
ceiling
server.
case, the jump goes
So
nowhere.
once
Just
D20
like I
gets up
mentioned
here-
earlier, ceiling hitboxes cut short your upwards trajectory. So in this case,
Oh, you went
Mario
the long
doesn't
way.
even
Why
leave the
didn't you
ground,
use
he
the
just
fan?
lands instantly.
It
So
doesn't
in
matter,
our
it's
bullet
already
points,
get up
it
here.
said that ceilings are the only one that cancel your
I'm
upward
calling
speed.
him
And
D20
just to
because
keep
that's
the
the
bullet
only name
points
I can
lined up,
remember
let's
now.
add that out of bounds
It's
is
too
the
late,
only
it's
one
too
that
late.
kills you. But now let's see what
Alright,
happens if we jump
so
into them.
D20
But
will
don't
go
touch
after
them
you
until
in
the
line,
downwards
and
portion
now
of the
Spark,
trajectory.
you go
In all
down.
three cases, Mario's forwards movement
And you
gets
just-
blocked
we're
if
playing
it just
angry
falls
birds,
down in
so-
place.
guys,
So
you
just
guys
like the
aren't
ground
supposed to
component,
move.
The ball lets Mario move into its hitbox and then pushes him back out, while the ceiling and out of
Just call me
bounds
Jolly
cancel them
or Jolly or
together.
You can call me
That's
either
just for
one.
jumping at a slow speed. If instead Mario jumps into the hitboxes moving at a medium speed, then in all 3 cases, he does a soft
No
bonk.
one here has
You
one.
know, a bonk without any star particles, and Mario stays upright. So let's add that to our notes. And if he jumps into the hitboxes moving at a fast speed, or during certain other actions, like a dive or slide
Now,
kick,
where is
then in
the
all
scarf?
3 cases, he does a hard bonk,
Is this
which has
scarf
star
taking the
particles
long
and
way, or is
Mario's
this
velocity
scarf
speed.
using the fan?
So let's
Alright,
also add
using the
that.
fan.
But now
Just
listen
find
to
that
the
out.
sound of each bonk.
Now, let's see, what's your name? Ryan? Now you go down the slide. We're playing Angry Birds. So just try to go down that blue slide and try to land on
it makes a
whatever.
sort of
I don't know why you guys are
the
moving.
wall doesn't do
You guys
that.
are supposed to
So let's
stand
add that to our
still.
notes too. So overall,
You guys
can
aren't
see that the
supposed
3
to-
cases are pretty similar.
If
They
you
all
guys
let
don't
push
go
up,
back to
they all let
the
you
original
walk up.
spot you were
So
at,
it's
I
easy
will
to
go
see why
down there,
people get
land on the
confused.
slide, and
Walls,
just tag all of
ceilings,
you.
and out of bounds.
And we'll have to
Someone might
redo
see
the
Mario
round.
pushing and think he's pushing on a wall.
So just go
but
back to your
actually he's
original
pushing on
spot.
out of bounds. And someone might see Mario bonk and think he bonked on a wall, but actually he bonked on a ceiling. So just keep in mind how similar these
Alright.
3 types of hitboxes are.
Now,
we're almost
now
ready
that
to get to
everyone's,
invisible
I'm pretty sure
walls.
everyone
But
wrote
there's
down
still one more
what.
topic we
So
need to
get
cover
polite.
first, which is positional units. For
Where's the-
example,
where's the
here
other
I'm showing
bubble?
Mario's
Other
position
bubble.
on
Right here,
screen,
other
so you can see his
more.
X coordinate, Y coordinate, and Z coordinate. Each coordinate
Alright.
represents how far along Mario
So
is
the
on
lava
the
monkey
corresponding
order
axis.
right
The
now
x-axis goes
is
east and
me
west, with east being the
tracking
positive direction.
D20,
The y-axis goes up and
and
down,
then
with up
there's,
being the
um,
positive direction, and the z-axis goes north and south, with
Cow,
south being the positive direction.
and then
So
right.
take a
That's the
top-down
order
map
right
of
now.
course. If we zoom in, we can see the grid of individual units. So a single
Alright.
unit in SM64
So get
is
in the
incredibly
line, 'cause
tiny,
I don't
only
want
like a
to forget.
centimeter wide.
So just get
and the
in
extra
line.
bold
So
lines are the x and z axes.
Alright,
Now
so
we're going
just
to analyze
pretend
what a
that
surface
D20
triangle
is.
looks
So
like
where
at this
is
scale.
where's tracking?
Surface triangles are usually
Tracking,
way bigger
why
than
don't you go
this,
down?
but we're going to be
What
looking
the-
at some pretty tiny triangles for
Your
now,
bro lost
just so
his
that we can see how
tracking.
certain properties work. Now, as you know, a surface triangle has 3 vertices, but what you may not know is that these 3 vertices have to
Alright,
have
so
integer
now you're
coordinates.
out. You
In
are
other
after
words, the
Ryan.
vertices always lie on the intersection of a horizontal unit line and a
So
vertical
tracking.
unit line.
So
a
you
triangle
are right
might look
after
like
me
this,
tracking.
or like this, or like this, but it would never look like this because
it goes
here
me,
the vertices
and then
are
it goes
integer
tracking,
coordinates.
and
The
then
reason for
pretend
this
that it's
restriction
first
is
in your
because
prison.
triangle
If you let
vertices
it,
are
we're
stored
gonna
as
get you back
shorts,
soon, I
and a
think.
short is a
But
variable
it's
type that
D20,
can only have integer
and
values
then
between negative
there's
32,768
Cow, and then there's Ryan's last. No, Ryan isn't last.
So it's
Green,
impossible for a vertex to have
darkness
a
is
value
last.
that isn't an integer. So
Ryan
now
is
let's
right.
consider this
Yeah,
for a
so you are
triangle. The
third.
question we're going to be analyzing is,
So-
where can Mario stand on this triangle? You might assume that it would just be this area, like the area enclosed within the triangle,
No.
but that's not right. Let me explain by filling out this little
Not yet.
table. So Mario himself is
Not
at
yet.
some coordinates, and those coordinates are stored as floats.
You
Floats are
can
another
join one of
variable
my
type.
live streams.
They
I should be
basically
streaming
store real
tomorrow
numbers,
unless I'm
like
dumb and
numbers that
forget
can have decimal
to charge my
components.
VR.
For
and I
example,
hate myself
let's say
for the
Mario's
next
at x
24
coordinate
hours.
1.34 and z coordinate
Jolly
negative
Dog.
2.79. But
It's
that's not
pretty
the
much
point
my
of the game
YouTube,
check
my,
to see
name
whether
on
it's
the
within the
game.
floor triangle
Alright,
or
so
not.
pretty much it's
Instead,
me,
the game first
and then
converts
it's
those values
D20,
to another type. Specifically,
Same
it
time-
converts
well,
the coordinates to
probably
shorts, and then
4
that's the point that the
Eastern
game
Standard
checks to
Time,
see
4
whether it's within the floor
p.m.
triangle or not. And like I mentioned
6
earlier,
p.m.
shorts can only
Eastern
have
Standard
integer
Time,
values,
so-
meaning no
So
decimal
you're left.
components.
Alright, this
So to
is
convert
taking
Mario's
forever to
coordinates from
organize.
floats to shorts,
So it's
the
me,
game takes the coordinates
and then it's
chops
Cow.
off the decimal
Wait,
components.
are you
So
staying
it's
or are
not
you
rounded,
leaving?
it's truncating. And so to summarize,
Alright,
even
so
though
it's
Mario's
me,
at 1.34,
D20,
negative
then Cow,
2.79,
then
the
Ryan,
floor
then
detection
Green.
function first truncates
Ninja.
those values to 1, negative 2, and then checks if that new position is within the floor
Alright.
triangle or not. Why does
Now,
it do that?
you guys
I
have
guess
to
the
stay
programmers
there
thought the
and don't
calculations
move.
would
Alright,
work out
who
better
is
with
that
shorts
on the
instead of
slide, that
floats,
lava
since
monkey?
floats can have slight rounding errors. But
Get out
anyway,
of there.
let me show this
Get
on
out
the
of
grid
there.
using the same numbers.
Why
So
are
Mario's
you
here,
moving,
x
Blue? You're
coordinate
supposed to stand still.
1.34 and z coordinate negative 2.79.
Alright,
I'll
so
also
wait.
add a highlight to Mario's
no, you
current
fell.
unit square to make
Don't
that
tag
easier
him.
to track. And then for the floor
Alright,
detection
remember, you guys have to
we can
stay
start
in
at
line.
Mario's
It's not
position,
your turn
but then we
yet.
have
You
to
guys have to
truncate
stay
the
in
decimal
line.
components. So for the x coordinate, 1.34
Yep, and
becomes
you're
1,
you're
meaning we
you're
go to the
last.
left
So
edge
then
of
there's
Mario's
Ryan
unit
and
square.
then Green.
And for the z coordinate, negative
Are the
2.79
last
becomes
two.
negative 2, meaning we go to the bottom edge of the unit square. square. So in general, the floor detection
so I'm
point
gonna
will
go-
always be on the corner of Mario's unit square closest to the origin. And that directly follows from the fact that when you remove a number's decimal component component, the number
Bro,
will
what
only
is
get
what
closer
is that
to
kid
0.
doing?
So
Oh,
now
wait,
if we move
what's his
Mario
name? What's
around
his
in a
name?
continuous way, we can see that the floor detection point
Hey, turn
moves
around,
around in
buddy.
a discrete way. And in all 4 quadrants, the floor detection point is still always on the corner of Mario's unit
Oh,
square
bro,
closest to
why
the
would you
origin.
do that?
On the other hand,
Well,
if
people,
Mario
guys,
moves around
report
in a unit
the
square,
guy
the floor
named,
detection point
I am a
doesn't even
hoe.
move. In
That's
other
his
words,
name.
all the positions within a unit square use the same floor detection point because all their
It's
positions
not I'm a hoe
truncate to
too,
the
it's
same
I'm a
corner
hoe.
closest to the origin.
Without the two.
Consequently, we can actually think of the corner closest to the origin as the representative for the whole unit
Practice
square.
it.
So whatever floor status the representative point has will be the floor status for all the points within the unit square. So if the representative point is a floor, then the whole unit square is considered floor. If the representative point is out of bounds, then the whole unit square is considered out of
It's
bounds.
this one, it's this one. It's
Spoiler
right
from the
under
future,
cowboy.
if the representative point is a ceiling,
Alright,
then
guys,
the
now
whole
let's
unit
go to
square is
forest. Let's
considered
continue
floor.
the
We'll demonstrate this
game.
principle with the floor triangle from earlier. We were trying to figure out where Mario can stand on this triangle, and I said it was not just the area inside the triangle. So let's look at some
Alright,
points near
guys,
the
come on,
triangle's
let's go
edge.
now.
If Mario's within this unit square, then this is the
Everybody
floor
go to
detection
forest.
point,
We're playing
aka
Sharks
the
and
representative
Minnows.
point for the whole unit square. The representative point is not within the floor triangle,
Actually, how
so
about
I
this?
make
How
it
about we
gray
do a
to
vote? Let's do a
indicate no
vote.
floor. I'll
Hello,
also
Light.
put a
We're
little
gonna do
arrow
a
from the
vote. This is
representative point to the
democracy.
unit square, just so that there's no confusion
Alright,
about
so
which unit
everybody
square
go to
is the
forest.
representative of. And note that because the representative
We're gonna
point
do a
is
vote.
always on the corner of the unit
Alright,
square
everyone
closest
stay
to
away
the
from me.
origin,
Nobody get
the
tagged.
arrow pointing from the
Everyone
representative point to
Oh,
the
jeez,
unit
this is
square
big
will always be
speakers.
facing away
Alright,
from
everyone
the
stay color
But
monkey.
anyway, since the
Alright, we're
representative
gonna
point
do a
is
vote,
gray to
alright?
indicate no
So
floor,
go
we
on
can
top
color the whole
of
unit
the
square gray to
gazebo
indicate no
if you
floor.
want to play
So
Sharks
even
and
if Mario
Minnows.
were here, which
And
looks
go
like
on
it's
top
inside the
of
floor triangle,
the
it would still count as
slide
being
if
outside
you
the
want to
triangle,
play
since this whole
Ghost
unit
in the
square is
Graveyard.
considered outside the triangle. On the other hand, if Mario's within
The
this
slide-
unit square, then this is the representative
The
point.
only
This
slide in
time, the
forest-
representative point is within the floor triangle, so I'll make it blue to indicate floor. And then I'll put the arrow again, and now, since the representative point is
Let's
blue
see
to
here.
indicate floor,
We have
we
2
can color
votes
the whole unit
for
square blue
Sharks
to
and
indicate
Minnows,
floor.
and
So even if Mario were
4
here,
votes for
which
Ghost
looks
in the
like it's
Graveyard.
outside
So
the
I'm
floor
gonna go
triangle,
high.
it would
You
still count as
guys
being
go
inside the
to
triangle, since this whole unit square is
the treehouse.
considered
You guys
inside
go
the
in the
triangle.
treehouse.
So going back to the whole triangle, the simplest way to determine where
Now
Mario
there's
can
one
stand
thing
on it
I have
is the
to,
following process.
do
First,
something
mark all
on the
the
stream real
points that are
quick,
within the triangle,
because I don't
including
want
the
people to
triangle
stream
bounds.
snipe.
Then put the arrows facing away from the origin to indicate which unit squares are being represented.
Bro, people can
And
still
finally,
stream snipe
fill
because
in
people
those
can
unit
watch
squares.
the stream.
So now we
If
can see
someone
the exact
watches
area
the
where
stream
Mario can
and
stand
then
on
sees
this
my
triangle.
hiding spot and
So
then
the
goes
floor
to that
detection
hiding spot and
area
says
is
goes to the
not
graveyard,
triangle.
that is
So
stream
while it's
sniping.
pixelated
Stream sniping is not only on Fortnite. Fortnite did not invent John Wick. Fortnite did not invent grass. Fortnite did not invent the color blue. Stop acting like a 5-year-old.
Exactly horizontal or exactly vertical, then the edge of the floor detection area will be a straight line. More specifically,
Why
if
would
it's
you
an
get
edge
tagged?
that faces towards the origin,
Unless you're
then the floor
leaving.
detection edge will coincide with the triangle edge. And if it's an edge
Bro,
that
I was
faces
supposed to be
away
the
from
first person
origin,
to hide
then
in
the floor detection
Ghost in the
edge will be
Graveyard.
1 unit offset from the triangle edge.
I
On the other
literally
hand,
just
if the triangle
changed
edge
the-
is not cardinally aligned, like it's on a diagonal, then the floor
Alright, so why
detection
did
edge
someone
will
walk
tag
up to me and get
separately.
tagged?
Note that ceiling detection
Like,
works
why would
in
someone be
exactly
that
the
dumb?
same way
You
as
just
floor
joined, it
detection,
wasn't you.
since it
I
also
saw you just
converts
join a
Mario's
second ago.
coordinates from floats to shorts.
Some dumb
So
person
all the
trying to
insight
grieve.
we just gained about
Alright,
floors
everyone,
also applies
let's
to
just
ceiling.
keep
Like with the
restarting the round
representative
until I'm the
points and
first
how
goblin,
ceiling detection
okay?
area is really just a
So I
pixelated
actually know how to do it. I actually know how to do it
triangle.
like really
And
fast.
before
Alright,
we
so
move
everyone,
on, I have one more note
everyone
about
go
the
inside
representative points. So in
alright,
general,
stop.
an integer point
Alright,
is the
Blue,
representative
you're,
for just
you're like
one
the
unit
little
square,
5-year-old
which is the
that
unit
says
square
not
away
on
from the
whenever the
origin.
teacher
But
tells you
for
to fill
integer
out his
points
math
on the
book
x-axis
in
and
second
z-axis,
grade.
they're each
Just
the
get
representative
tagged.
of 2 unit squares.
Alright, stop
And the origin
acting
itself
like a
is the
little
representative
baby
for
just because you
4
don't want to
unit
get tagged.
squares. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I don't want to get tagged. It's gorilla tag. I don't want to get tagged. Wait, I'm gonna
How
grieve.
can we answer what they are without
Alright,
knowing what
like
they
if
are?
you don't
In
get
other words, what do we
tagged,
even mean
I
when we
will
say
report
invisible
you.
walls? How should we define them? Because we can't find examples of them
Alright,
to
these guys are
analyze
just
them,
bad
so
at the
no one
game.
actually
It's not even their
qualifies
type
as an
anymore.
invisible wall. So let's break it down. The term invisible wall has 2 parts to it, invisible and wall.
Alright, come on, everyone. Everyone go to treehouse.
You just have to not be able
Still
to see
someone
it.
not
For
tagged?
example, this
Bro.
would count as an invisible
How about this?
wall,
Whoever's
because
not
I'm
tagged right now,
However,
go
this would
to,
not count as invisible
don't record
because
again,
I
don't
can
record
clearly see the
again.
wall
Go
there.
to forest
And
and
to
get
satisfy
though,
being
you were in there the whole
you'd think
time.
I'd say it has to be a wall, but think about
Alright,
it.
just
A
don't
casual
leave this
player
video.
can't see specific triangles and their classifications. Instead, a casual
just think
player
you
would just go
recorded
by what
each
it seems like is happening. After all, they say if it looks like a duck
I
and
know.
quacks like a duck,
Alright, so
it's a
everyone
duck.
go inside
So if we
treehouse,
apply that
even the
principle
lava
here,
monkey,
we'd say
because
if you
I
can
want
push
to
it
be the
like a
first
wall
lava
and
monkey.
walk on it like a wall,
So
it's
you
a
will
wall.
be,
At least it
so
would
just
seem that way
don't
to a
hold
casual
on,
player.
just
So
that way we
based
can
on all
see.
that, our
So
definition
stand
of
like
invisible
right here,
walls would
right?
be any space
That
that's
green.
pushable and bonkable
He's
but
not
has
allowed.
no
No,
visible
the
texture.
wall, not the
Now remember
corner.
our discussion
Right
from
here.
earlier? We established that walls,
Alright,
ceilings,
now-
and
now,
out of
put
bounds
your
are
arms
all
like this.
pushable and all bonkable. So really, an
Alright,
instance
now
of any
someone
one
put
of
your
these
body
three hitboxes
inside
can
of
be
his
labeled
hand.
as an invisible wall,
Like
so
this.
long as
Like
there's no
this.
texture associated with it.
Right?
Now,
I want to make a
surface
tag
triangles
deal,
only have
alright?
textures. So a
So
wall
now,
can
if
only
that
count as an
green guy
invisible
gets
wall
tagged,
if
he'll
programmers didn't put a texture
instantly
for it.
tag that
A
other
ceiling
green
would
guy.
count as an
See?
invisible wall if
Now,
you hit
I
it
want
hard
another
enough.
person
Since
to
that's so
continue
far
the
away from the
wheel
ceiling
of
texture
tag
that it would just seem like a
until
separate
there's
thing
only
that's
one
invisible.
gap left.
And then out
So
of
you
bounds
will
would
be
always
next.
count as an invisible wall.
You'll be on
Since
the
it's a
other
hitbox
hand.
with no surface triangles, and so it has no textures. So those are
Alright,
the three
or
things
you
that
guys
count
can
as
just like
invisible
get in the
walls.
big box. Actually,
From
how about
there,
this?
I've further broken it
Instead
down
of-
into 8 causes of invisible walls.
How about this, alright?
3 of them
Everyone
are pretty
go in a
straightforward.
treehouse and just
4 of them
everyone
are a
get
little
in
more
that small
involved.
corner.
And the
Just
last
every
one,
single
well,
person
let's
get in
just say
that
it's the
corner.
final boss of the causes. But instead of
You,
thinking
get
about
in the
them like
corner.
this, you know,
Get in the
8
corner,
items in a
buddy,
row,
or leave
we're
the
instead
server.
gonna think about them like this, with 4 items on the left, all separate, and 4 items
Guys,
on
it's
the
the
right,
cool
and
game
a
corner,
2
guys.
table like a
KK.
Punnett square. So I basically created the periodic
The first
table
lava
elements
monkey
but
just-
for invisible
wait,
walls.
the
And
first
we're
lava
gonna spend
monkey
the
is
rest of the
leaving.
video filling
He's
it
either
out.
leaving
Like,
or
for each
he's
cause,
just-
I'll explain how it
Oh,
works.
I'm
and
gonna
we'll
get
look at
tagged
the
on purpose if
so,
that guy doesn't
let's
leave.
dive into the
Just
first
so I can
cause
tag
of
him.
invisible
Actually,
walls,
hold
which
on.
has to do
I'll
with
get
wall
tagged on
triangles.
purpose.
See, most wall triangles have a texture, but surface triangles and graphics triangles are 2 completely
Everyone get
separate
in the
things
corner
in the
and
game.
get tagged.
Surface triangles
White,
have
don't
hitboxes
green.
that affect Mario, like we've talked
Guys,
about.
stay in the
Graphics
corner.
triangles
White is
are
literally
purely
coming to
visual.
the corner.
Now, for the most part, the
Alright, now you
programmers
can
made
tag-
it so
tag
that
me
every
last,
surface
everyone.
triangle has a corresponding graphics
Alright,
triangle.
everyone
But there are
just
some
get in a
exceptions.
big bunch in
So
the
if there's a
corner,
wall
alright?
triangle with no corresponding
Until I'm the
texture,
first
then
lava
that would
monkey.
count as an invisible wall. So let's look at some
No,
examples.
lava monkey is
In the hallway
no.
leading up to
Everyone gets in
Bowser
a bunch in the
World,
corner.
there's an
Lava
invisible
monkey gets
wall
in the
right after
corner.
the trap door.
In the bunch.
Obviously, it was
That
put
way,
there because
everyone
this
gets
whole hallway is
tagged,
trapped,
and
you're
then
not
if
actually
I'm
able to
not
get
the
to
first
the
lava
end.
monkey,
On
everyone will
Tiny
get
Peach
tagged
Island, there's an
until
invisible
I'm the
wall
first lava
there
monkey.
all along the edge of the course.
Does that make
So
sense?
this is a rare
So I'm
case
in
when
this
there
corner.
actually is a
Everyone
wall
goes in that
of the
corner.
course instead of just out of
If
bounds.
you don't get in the
Now, if
corner,
you
you are
remember, when
griefing,
you
and
swim
we
into
will
out of
report you.
bounds, Mario's movement gets cancelled, and so you're just kind of stuck there until you
Like, this
turn
is
all the
very
way
annoying.
around. The programmers obviously didn't like that behavior.
Honestly,
so
I
they
don't
added a
care if
wall
you
here
invite
so that
anyone,
you
as
can
long
move
as they
along the edge
know
instead
how
of
to
getting
follow
stuck.
simple
Because
directions.
remember, walls let you move along them, but out of bounds
Surprisingly,
cancels
some of
them.
these people
And
don't
note that
know.
this wall is
So
also
everyone
present
just
in the
get in
tiny
the corner,
version of
get
the
inside of the
And
glub
in
glub
the
glub
side
glub
of the tall
glub.
mountain, there's an invisible wall in the shape of a little
Everyone get in the
rectangle
glub
at the
glub
top of the
glub
end of the
glub.
first tunnel.
So that
So
way
you
you
might
get
be wondering
automatically
why that's
tagged.
there. Well, based on footage of the game's
You too,
beta,
weed
you
whacker.
can actually conclude that this is a remnant of a left
You
turn
wigger.
sign that used to be in that spot. It's kind of blurry, but it's there alright. So that
You
means at
white
some point,
villager.
the programmers removed the graphics for the
Everyone,
left turn sign, but accidentally
everybody-
left in the collision. Also,
Oh,
on
I'm
the
not
tall
left.
mountain slide, if you head the wrong
Wait,
way
who's
and
not
go
left?
down the dead-end path, you can see that
I
they
know,
put a big
everyone-
invisible wall here.
Hold on.
This is so that you can't fall off from here and land on
Alright,
the
get
later
get back
slide.
get back in the
Instead,
glub glub
they
glub
wanted
glub
you to
blue.
plummet to
Come
your
on,
death.
everybody.
But since now we can see the exact edges of this big wall,
Everyone
we can
get
actually
in the
just
glub
navigate
glub
around
glub
it
blue.
and land on a later later part of the slide anyway. In fact, here I've landed on a part
Alright,
after the loading
please,
zone.
I
most
want
of the
this.
slide
This is
isn't
kind
even
of
loaded.
funny,
And so if
and I don't
continue
want you
ahead,
guys
I
to
just fall
like
off
be
and
annoying
die.
to other
Then
people.
in Big Boo's Haunt, there's an invisible wall above the center of the merry-go-round.
I
It's
am
like a
the-
little column
the
sticking
glo-
right out of the pyramid.
I
See,
am the
camera in this room is normally
Galab-Go-Gub-Go-Gub.
situated right in the center above
Oh my
the
gosh,
pyramid.
wait,
I didn't want
everyone,
to
stay
prevent
away
you
from him,
going
stay away
through
from him.
that
I'm
spot,
gonna
since
get
that could
tagged
cause
by
the
him.
camera to turn
I'm
real
gonna get
suddenly.
tagged by him,
But
and
if we
he's
use
gonna
hacks
leave.
to remove that invisible wall column,
Everyone
we can
get
see
back
exactly
in there.
what they
Everyone
were
get
trying
back
to
in there.
prevent. See, the camera does a 180
Everyone just
at
don't
frames,
leave the
which
point.
probably isn't the best user experience. Then in
You are a
Bowser
person.
Fire Sea, there are some invisible
Darkness.
walls right after the funnel at the end. These were put there so that you don't accidentally jump over the funnel and fall down.
You're a person
because
in
then you
real life,
basically have to
dumb.
redo the whole level. But also,
You
there's
dumb
some
monkey.
invisible walls under the funnel to make sure you can't touch the ending
See?
trigger from the side. And
You-
finally, in Womp's
get in the
Fortress,
corner.
there's actually a big invisible wall right
Everyone-
under the corpse. So why'd they put this
Everyone
one?
has to go in.
Well,
How is
it
White
actually
not
has to do with
tagged?
the water that's
Now
in
he
the
is.
bubble. Let me give you a quick rundown
Yo,
on water. So here's the side view
Yo, how
of
is
a
this
surface
guy? How
of
is this
water.
guy still
Note
here?
that I'm making it purple because blue is already taken
not
by
anymore. I
floors.
just made
So
him
there are
disappear
two
by
important
breathing
things
at
to
him.
understand about
Oops.
water. First,
Why do
the
you guys
hitbox
follow
water
me?
extends from
You're
the
like
water
little
surface
baby
all
chickens
the
who
way
don't know
downwards.
anything, so
Like,
they
never
just
programmed
follow
water
their mother.
hitboxes to have a bottom.
Everyone
And
get in the
second,
glove,
whenever
glove,
Mario
glove,
enters a
glue,
water
glue.
hitbox, his
Come on,
height gets
everyone
set
get
to
in
just
the
under
corner.
the water surface, and he goes
Everyone
into the
get in
swimming
the corner
action.
until I
Now,
finish
normally,
lava.
you wouldn't
Alright?
notice the height change because you're only meant to enter
Everyone
water
get in that
hitboxes
corner.
from the top.
Everyone join
Which
the
means you'll
pitch.
already be near the water surface.
You are
when your
you
height
are
gets set to
everyone.
near the water surface. So in most
You-
cases,
if you
this
keep
height change
doing this,
doesn't
you
have
will
a
be
very
recorded.
noticeable effect.
Because
But
this
there
is
are
like
some
the
ways to
50th
enter
time
water
I've
from
told
the
you to
side,
get
in which
inside
case you
the
can get a
loop.
huge upwarp to
And
the
you
water
just ignored
surface.
me.
For example, in
Alright,
Tall Tall
alright.
Mountain, you
Why
can
do
clip through
people
this
keep
wall into the
joining my
water
server and
behind.
taking off
And
their
from
heads?
there, if you go
Oh,
forwards,
never
you
mind.
can
Alright,
enter the
that person was
hitbox
just
of
getting
the
off
water
their
higher up
lesson.
in the level,
Get in
causing
the-
you to
everyone
upward
has
to
to
that
get-
one. And
Rats,
similarly, in Tiny Huge Island, we can clip into the mountain, and then we upwarp to the
I
top of the
am
water that's in the
this
mountain.
close
So
to
going
ending
back
the
to
stream
Womp's
right now.
Fortress,
I'm trying to be
reason
the
for
first
this
lava
invisible
monkey
wall
so
is
we
to
can play
prevent
Ghost
you
in the
from entering
Graveyard.
water hitbox
And no
from
one
the
is
side.
listening.
But they made a little
There's only
oversight
3 people
because to the
listening.
right of
There's
this
like
invisible
5
wall
people
is a
who
gap.
just keep
So you
leaving
actually
over
can
and over
enter the water
again.
hitbox
Like,
after all.
I'm
and
about
get
to do
deep,
this in real
which makes
life.
for a nice party trick. In fact, you can
Like,
say
I
to your
am-
friend,
I
I
am
bet
like-
you $10 I can jump off the edge and survive.
Like, no
Easy
parachute.
way to make money. So yeah, that's the first cause of invisible walls, which we're gonna call wall with no texture. Now let's look at the second cause, which has to do
Bro,
with ceilings.
stop.
Remember, I said ceilings usually come in one of two forms: the top of an enclosed room or the bottom of an enclosed structure. I also said that
Like,
the upper
how
part of a
are you
ceiling
guys
is
even
so
in
far away from the
school?
ceiling
Honestly,
texture that
the
it just
second
seems
you
like
guys
it's
make
separate
it
hitboxes.
into high school,
So
you're gonna be
in
held
these
back
two cases,
every
that would be
single
above
year.
the enclosed room
Because
and
where
inside
I
the
live,
enclosed structure.
you
These two
get
areas
you
are
can
meant to
only
be
be
able
held
to
your
interact
parents'
with them,
decision
which we count
up
as
until high
interacting
school.
with an
Once you reach
invisible
high
wall.
school, it's
So
not
let's
your
look at
parents'
some
decision, it's the
examples,
school's
starting with
decision.
getting above
So you guys
rooms.
are gonna be high
Like we
schoolers
saw
for a long
earlier, in
time.
Wet Dry World, you can use Chucky to clip into the space above the tunnel, which
Yo,
is an upper ceiling hitbox. If we bonk in there, our angle actually gets reflected every
Alright,
frame,
how about this?
because when
Everyone
Mario's
stay
in
in
the
the
bonk
corner.
action, he's
If
programmed to
anyone's
reflect
not
off
paying
of
it,
ceilings
if
and out of
anyone
bounds.
isn't
Since
listening,
here, Mario's
I'll be
surrounded
the
by
one to
ceiling
go tag
hitbox,
them.
he just gets continuously reflected, which
Alright.
looks pretty silly. In Hazy Maze Cave, it's actually possible
Because
to touch this
I'm
moving
most
platform
likely
at
the
a
best
bound.
person in
And
the
so
server.
then we can have
Because
the
you guys don't
platform
know
move
how
out
to
from
listen
under
to
Mario
simple
while he's in
directions.
the air,
And
until he
anyone
ends
who
up in the
can't do
ceiling
that is
hitbox
obviously
above
not
a room
right.
down below. In the
At
castle
anything.
foyer, like we saw earlier, you can
Alright,
clip
so
inside
everyone
this
get in the
pillar,
corner.
and so then you're able to push on the ceiling hitbox.
Alright,
of the
you
area
get in the
below.
corner, White.
You know, the
If
area
the
with
rat
the
doesn't
stairs
go
that
in
go
the
down to
corner,
the basement.
well,
and
it
also,
looks like
we
he's going in
saw,
the corner
you can
right
backwards
now.
long jump and end up behind the upstairs key door, and that lets you push on the ceiling hitbox above the boo hall.
Alright, so
Now let's
everyone
look
get
at
in the
getting
gloop.
inside enclosed structures.
Get in the gloop.
In Jolly Roger Bay, it's possible
Alright, actually,
to clip
alright.
inside the
Alright, now
floating ship.
everybody
This
just
hole
stay inside of the
ceiling
treehouse. We
hitbox.
can finally
And
start
in
the
Rainbow
first
Ride,
round.
we can use a bomb to
Alright,
clip
everyone
inside one
stay
of these glass
inside
blocks.
treehouse.
And of course, their whole inside is ceiling hitbox too.
So pretty much
those are
the
some
lava
examples
monkey
of
has
getting
to
above a
hide
room and
inside of a
an
map,
enclosed structure.
and
But
then
there's a third
the
case
color
that can
monkeys have
happen,
to
and that's if
find
we
the
have
lava
something that
monkey
should be
when
an
the
enclosed structure, but
when the
doesn't
color
have a
monkey
floor on top.
finds
In that
the
case,
lava
the ceiling
monkey,
hitbox would just
they yell
continue to
ghost in the
propagate
graveyard.
upwards unimpeded. In
Just
theory, that should
hey,
never
hey,
happen
hey,
in
stay
the
there,
game.
stay there.
But
Don't
does
tag
it?
anyone.
Well, in the
Alright,
Tall
we're playing
Mountain
Ghost in the
slide, we have
Graveyard.
these three arches. And let me make the background white so that it's easier
Alright,
to see.
So
let's
then,
look at the first arch.
well,
On its
so
underside,
pretty much
we have
that's the
some
basic
ceiling
rule. Oh,
triangles,
when
and
the
on the
color
top
monkey says
side,
ghost
we
in
have
the
some floor
graveyard, everyone has to
triangles.
run
so
to
no problems
treehouse.
here. But now let's
Now
look at the
there's
second
a
arch.
few
On
things
the
that you're
bottom,
not
we have
allowed
some
to
ceiling
do.
triangles,
You're not
and
allowed
on the
to
top,
entrance
there are
cam.
no
You're
floor
not allowed.
triangles. The programmers just didn't
Bro,
put in.
get
So
inside.
that means the ceiling
Get
hitbox
inside
isn't
of the
covered by any
treehouse.
floors, and so it just propagates
Or
upwards
leave the
without
server.
anything to contain it. And what about the third arch? On the bottom, we have some ceiling
How are
triangles,
these
and
people
on the
not in
top,
a
there are once again no
good
floor
class in school?
triangles. So on this arch too, the ceiling hitbox just leaks out into the space above. And so basically, if you've ever tried to jump
Like,
over the second or third arch, you'll have found
It's
that you're
Jolly
unable
Og.
to,
Wait,
because
what?
Mario just bonks on the ceiling hitboxes. We call these exposed ceiling hitboxes because
I don't care if
unlike
you bring
normal
your friend
ones that
here.
are contained, these ones are just right out in the open. They're exposed. And then
Just
there's
stay
actually a
inside
fourth
of the-
case
I
for
can't hear
ceilings,
you.
which is a
Just
ceiling
stay
that's all by
inside of
itself.
the
Not the top of a
treehouse.
room, not the bottom of an enclosed structure, but just a ceiling in
Get
isolation.
in the
whose
treehouse.
hitbox
You are the
would
least
also
wanted
propagate
person in the
upwards
server.
unimpeded. Surely
Get
the programmers
in
never
the
did that, right? Well, in
treehouse
Pool
before I hurt
Mountain,
your
we have this
family.
bridge near the red coin star. At the end of the bridge are these two flaps on the sides.
Alright,
These
guys,
are
well, that
clearly
was a
meant to be
kind of
walls, but they're
mildly
actually
nice
ceilings
stream.
since they're angled
I hope
slightly
I can see you guys in the next
and
one.
because the programmers didn't expect these surfaces to be ceilings, they didn't put any floors to cover them. So the ceiling hitboxes just rise upwards without anything to stop them.
I'm just
meaning
kidding.
that this is another case
I'm
of
just
exposed
kidding.
ceiling hitboxes. So
I'm
watch out
just
if you're ever
joking with
playing
y'all.
around
I
near these
didn't
two
end the
flaps.
stream.
So yeah, that's the second cause of invisible walls, which we're gonna call
Bro, why are you
above
acting
ceiling
like you
below
care?
any floor. Because if there's no floor above the ceiling, then the whole
You know what?
area
You're
above
just gonna
the
be a
ceiling
lava
is
monkey because
bonkable.
you're really
and if there
annoying.
is a floor above the ceiling, then only
But
the
if you
area
tag them,
between
I
them
will
is bonkable.
seriously end
So
the
now let's
stream
look at the
for a
third
month.
cause, which has to do with out of bounds. If you remember from earlier, all courses are surrounded
Alright.
by out of bounds, even if they have a death
Now
barrier.
just play
And
this
that out of
normally,
bounds is an
or
invisible
don't play this
hitbox
at
that you
all.
can bonk on, so it counts as an invisible
I
wall.
can't.
So
I
if the
can't
course
hear
doesn't
you.
have a death barrier, then the out of bounds area will
No,
just be on the edge of the
you have to go to your
And if the
settings,
course
like
does
in your
have a death
Oculus
barrier,
settings,
then the
because it
out-of-bounds
asks
area will be
permission.
at the edge of the death
It asked
barrier,
permission
which you
for
can
your
reach if you
microphone,
jump
and
far
you said
enough.
no.
So that's the third
That's
cause
why
of
nothing's
invisible walls,
happening.
which we're gonna call out of bounds on course edge. And so those are the first three causes, which I said were
Alright.
pretty straightforward. And that's because they directly correspond to the three
Now, you
hitboxes
might have
we
to
talked
leave
about
and
earlier,
rejoin
walls,
Gorilla Tag.
ceilings,
You might
and
have to
out of
quit the
bounds.
game and
So think
rejoin.
of these three causes as the simple, basic implementations
After you-
of those
after
three
you,
hitboxes.
allow
the remaining
access.
causes are more advanced implementations.
Oh.
So let's get to those ones now by next looking at the
How about
Punnett
this?
square.
When you come
Specifically,
back,
let's look at the
just
fourth
go
cause.
on top
Like
of
I
the
said,
stuff and try
these
not to
causes
tag
are more
anyone,
complex. So instead of me saying the cause outright, we're going to build up to it
Alright,
with
let's
examples
hide-
so that
let's
you get
hide
some
Ratatouille.
intuition. So imagine a structure like this. It's a staircase with two steps. Now let's look at this structure from above. Not just like this, but also on a unit grid, which looks like this. So there's a floor rectangle on the bottom representing the lower step, and a floor rectangle on the top representing the upper step. Now I have two clarifications to make. First, a floor rectangle is just two floor triangles together that form a rectangle. Like, we could analyze this situation on the triangle level, but it's simpler to just pair up the triangles into rectangles and analyze the
wanna
situation
say
on the
this real
rectangle
quick.
level. So that's what
If
we're
you
gonna
see
do.
the sparkles,
And
that
second,
does not
even though we're
count as
looking at the
finding
same
the
shape on
flavor.
left
That
and the
only
right,
counts as
they're at
like a
different
maybe a
scales.
warning.
The 3D
But
shape
don't
on the
say
left
Ghost
is
in
at
the
a normal
Graveyard
scale that you'd
just
find in
because
a
you
game,
see, like,
hundreds
sparkles.
of units wide, while the shape on the right is scaled down to be really tiny, like less than 10 units wide. I made it really tiny so that it's easier to see individual units. So for example, if we rotate the two shapes, the one on the left will stay normal looking, but the one on the right will deform, because remember, all the vertices still have to have integer coordinates, which has a big effect at this scale. Now on the right side, the structure looks like two floor rectangles with a seam in between. Separated like this, then there'd be a gap. But no, there is no gap. So let's clear that, put the structure back
Yeah,
to
we're
a
ready.
top-down view,
Come on, you have to
and
hang
now
out
we're
like
going to
this.
rotate it to see if that causes any gaps between
Try
the
not to
edges.
fall, like, put your
now,
hand,
even
like,
though the
out
two
here.
edges are changing coordinates, they remain exactly in sync. So for example, at this angle, there are still no gaps between the two edges, since they still have the
True.
exact same lateral coordinates. So let's rotate the structure back to its starting angle, and now we're going to change the structure
Bro,
itself.
you're gonna give
You
away
see
your
that upper
sign.
step?
Rat.
I've now split it into
And a
two
drink.
steps, and you can see this change reflected on the unit
Bro,
grid.
that's
So
not even
again,
Ghost in the
let's think
Graveyard.
about
He
the
wasn't
edges
even
that
in the
make up
hiding spot.
seam
He was
between the lower
outside.
step and the upper steps.
I'm
Or in other
about to
words,
end
the
the
edges at
stream,
the
bro.
bottom of
He
the
was
wall
outside of
versus
the
the
hiding
edges at
spot
the
in
top
his
of the
Oculus
wall.
menu.
This time, that would be the north edge of the lower step, the south edge
Bro,
of the upper left
this is-
step,
honestly,
and the south
everyone
edge
just
of the
report
upper right
Rat
step.
one
Same
for
question.
toxicity.
Are there any gaps between them
Because he
on the
keeps
unit
griefing
grid?
time and
The
time
answer
again.
is no.
And then
but
as
the
soon as
reasoning
we're
is a little
hiding,
different
you
this
leave the
time,
hiding spot
because
like,
now
alright, we're
there aren't
hiding.
just two
Okay,
edges with the
let me
same
go
lateral
over.
coordinates.
Like, let's say that we were
Instead, there
hiding
are three
here.
edges,
If
a
we were
long
hiding
edge and
here,
two short
this is
edges.
the- this
and
is
notice
you,
that
this
the
is
two
you.
short edges connect at a point that lies exactly on the bigger
You've just been
edge.
doing that the whole
Because
time.
of that, we're going to call
Like,
that point an edge
report the
vertex. In
rat for
general, we'll
toxicity.
define an edge vertex as a triangle vertex that's intended to lie laterally on another triangle's edge. So it's not meant to coincide with the other triangle's vertices,
Yeah,
but
if you
instead
get
be
tagged, you
somewhere
have
in
to
the
hide in the
middle of
same
the
map.
triangle's edge. And it doesn't have to lie exactly on the edge, but just be intended to lie on the edge. So in theory, it could miss by a little. Now going back to the structure, you can see that the edge vertex here does lie exactly on the bigger edge. And because of that, there are no gaps between the bigger edge and the two smaller edges. In the 3D view on the left, that means that this edge vertex is laterally aligned with this edge. And just to clarify, I could mark the edge vertex here or here. It doesn't really matter because those 2 points are basically guaranteed to line up with each other. So laterally, they're like the same point. So going forward, we'll consider them to be the same edge vertex and I'll only be marking one of them. Okay, so let's clear all of that, put the structure back to a top-down view, and now let's rotate it again. This time, you may notice something funky is going on with the edge vertex on the unit grid. So let's stop it here. And now same question. Are there any gaps between the edges?
It's over here.
Interestingly, in this case, there is a gap. And that's because the edge vertex is no longer exactly on the lower edge. And how could it be? Because remember,
you almost dropped the glider directly where mine was.
But there are no integer coordinates that lie exactly on the lower edge. Earlier, when the structure was cardinally aligned, it was easy to find an integer coordinate exactly on the edge, because the edge went through so many. But now, since we're at a weird angle, the edge doesn't go through any integer coordinates, and so it's literally impossible for the edge vertex to lie on the edge.
Wrong way.
Instead, it just has to pick integer coordinates that are close to the edge.
In front of
that
your
means
face
there
and
are
then
two
put them
cases.
behind your face.
Case 1, the edge vertex overshoots and causes
Actually,
the floors
this is
to
actually a good
overlap.
hiding spot.
Floors overlapping like this is perfectly fine and won't cause any invisible walls. And then case 2, the edge vertex undershoots and causes a gap between the floors.
It's the
and
same
when there's a
as
gap
here,
like
guys.
this, then we have some problems. Remember, the triangle area itself doesn't represent where Mario can stand. Instead, we have a little
should
process
be ready
for
once
figuring
these
that
guys
out.
are done
Let's do
goofing.
that
We're not
again
done.
here.
We're not
First,
ready yet.
we mark
You
all
guys are being
integer
goofy.
points that are within the floor or on the floor bounds. Then add the arrows.
We're just gonna
finally
hide
fill
here.
in the unit squares. Now you can see
I'll
the
look
issue.
on that
There are
side.
two
Me and
integer
Cal
points
are
that
gonna
aren't
look at
inside
that
any
side.
floors.
Rat
Consequently,
and
their
Banana
unit
are looking
squares
that
are
side.
not considered to be floor. Instead, we call them floor gaps. And so
Bro,
basically,
Rat, you
any
have to get in
structure
the
that
hiding
resembles
spot.
this could
Alright,
have
if you guys
floor
see
gaps.
Rat, that's not a
Instead of
ghost in the
this, it could look
graveyard.
like
It's only
this,
ghost in the
or
graveyard
like
if you
this,
see anyone
or
else.
like this.
Because
It
Rat
doesn't take
keeps
very
leaving
much.
the hiding
You
spot.
just need a seam between
So
floors,
if you see
usually
Rat,
with
he
a
doesn't
wall in
count.
it,
He's
and
not.
for the floor edges
he's
on
not
either
hiding.
side of the seam to be subdivided differently. That causes there to be an edge vertex, which as we discussed, is a vertex meant to lie on another triangle's edge. Specifically,
doesn't
a
even
triangle
have
on
the
the other
root-
side of
yeah.
the seam.
His
But if
nose
the
is red.
structure is at a weird angle, then the edge vertex might be misaligned from its edge, causing there to be floor
I don't
gaps.
remember what
So
I
to
ate for
recap, we looked
breakfast
at 4
yesterday.
scenarios. Whether there was no edge vertex or there was an edge vertex,
No, I don't
and
remember
whether the
anything. I
structure
barely
was
remember
cardinally
anything about
aligned
yesterday
or at
because
a
it was a
weird angle.
testing day.
And
It
only
was
when there was an
stressful.
edge vertex at a
boring.
weird angle did we get floor gaps. So those are the 2 main ingredients. Now I think it would also be useful to look at floor gaps from the side. So let's take this structure, put it sideways, and now take the cross section of the steps. And to make this easier to work with, I'm going to make the wall a little taller and extend the floors. Now as we saw in the previous demonstration, there's some geometry that can cause these 2 points to be misaligned, meaning that the wall triangle can end up slanted. So what we're going to do here is look at 5 different alignments of the upper point in order to examine 5 different slants of the wall triangle. The 5 slants are leaning very far back, leaning a little back, perfectly vertical, leaning a little forwards, and leaning very far forwards.
If you're on top
We're
of
going
the
to see
treehouse,
which
you can
ones
still get
cause there to
tagged.
be floor gaps and what happens in those cases. So let's start with perfectly
You
vertical.
weren't in the
this
treehouse.
case, the 2 floors are exactly
you know,
flush.
this
Now, for
game-
each case,
this
we're
game
going to see what
keeps getting
happens when we
green,
show
so
the
let's play-
out-of-bounds area.
let's just play
So
Sharks
first,
and
let's add the
Minnows
floor
instead.
hitboxes, and then
Actually,
let's let the out-of-bounds
since-
area
wait, don't
propagate
tag him, don't
upwards
tag
to
him,
see
don't
where
tag
it
either of
fills.
them.
In
Don't
this
tag
case,
either
the
of them,
floors
don't tag
cover
either
all
of
of the
them.
out-of-bounds, which
You
means
ran
all
into
the
the lava,
area
Mickey, that's
above
not your
is
fault.
habitable.
No, don't
So
tag
I'll
green,
give
don't
this
tag
case
green,
a
don't tag
happy
green.
face. Then
It's
next,
gonna-
let's look at leaning very far back.
You
Interestingly,
guys
when the wall
are the
triangle is
worst.
this slanted, it
I
actually
feel
gets
like this is like
classified as a
preschool.
ceiling.
Like
And this
I feel like
happens
I'm
in the
teaching
game,
you guys how
where
to spell the
triangles are
letter
meant to be walls,
A.
but are just a little too slanted, and so they're actually
Alright, we're
ceilings.
playing Sharks and
For
Minnows.
example,
Don't
in Cool
tag
Cool
anybody.
Mountain, there's
Alright,
this ceiling.
forget
So even though
democracy.
it looks like a wall,
Alright,
you can't
so-
kick on it or do any other wall interactions with it. And then in
Sharks
Rainbow
and
Ride,
Minnows
there's
might
this
be a
ceiling.
bit-
It's
honestly,
meant
I
to be
think
part
hide
of
and
the big
seek might be
house's
too
wall,
complex
but
for you
because
guys.
it's just a little
If
too
you guys suck
slanted,
at
it's
just
actually a ceiling. So we'll call these
not
wall-like
touching
ceilings
someone.
because they're
Alright,
ceilings
so
that look
you have
like
to be in
walls
this
and are meant
corner.
to be walls. So
Alright,
going
the
back
lava
to our
monkey says
demonstration,
go. When the
let's see
lava
what
monkey
happens
says
when we show
go,
the hitboxes
we all
again.
run.
Like before,
Well,
the
give
floors
us
still
like a
cover all
3-second
of the
countdown. The
out-of-bounds.
countdown is
In fact,
not
we have some floor
like
overlap
you
in the
start
middle,
counting,
so
we
there's
go
floor to
when you
spare.
finish.
So this
We
case
you
gets a
run.
happy
No,
face.
no.
Then
It's
next,
just a
let's look at
warning to
leaning
let
a
us
little
know
back.
when you say
Here,
go,
the wall
everyone
triangle
goes.
is still a wall,
Alright,
just a
just
slightly
give us like a
leaning wall.
5 or 3
If we
second
show the
countdown
hitboxes again,
before
we can
you
see
say
that
go.
the
That
floors
way we
still
know
cover
when to
all of the
go.
out of bounds, with a little bit of floor to spare. So this
Yeah,
case
we
gets
can
a
do that
happy
next.
face.
Wait,
Though, one
do you
big
not have a
caveat
mic?
here is that this angle is not to scale. In reality, walls can only tilt
Wait,
about
do you
this
have a
much while
microphone?
still being a wall. But I didn't want the arrows to be really crammed together.
He's
So in
trying
these
to tell me
visuals,
something.
we're just gonna pretend
Try not
that
to
walls
tag
can
me.
tilt this much and still be a wall for the
You
sake
don't have
of
a microphone?
convenience. Then next, let's skip ahead and look
Alright, how
at
about
leaning
this?
very
I'll
far
be the
forwards.
countdown.
Now
I'll
the
be
wall
the
triangle
countdown
is
then.
so slanted the
And
other
then
way that it gets
whoever gets
classified as a
tagged by
floor.
you can be the
And this
next
happens in the
countdown.
game too. For example, in
Like,
Bob
the
on
first person to
Battlefield,
get
the
tagged
side
by
of
you
this
is the
third step
countdown.
has a floor triangle that's
Alright,
meant to be a wall.
5,
But because it's a floor,
4,
you can walk on it
3.
and slide on
Remember,
it.
you have to
In
be in the
Bowser in
corner.
the Dark World, the side
You have
of
to
this
be in
little
the corner,
bridge has
that's
a
the
floor
wall.
triangle.
You have to be in the
Bowser in the
group. We all
Fire
have to be
Sea, the
touching each
side of
other.
this platform
Pause.
has floor triangles.
Alright,
And in
5,
the castle courtyard,
4,
the side of this
3,
structure has
2,
a floor
1,
triangle.
go!
So for these ones, we'll call them wall-like floors. But what effect does this have in our demonstration? Well, first let's show the floor hitboxes. You can see that the original two floors are now separated a bit, but luckily, this new floor covers the area in between.
I made it!
So if we show the out-of-bounds area, we
Remember,
can see
no
that the
corner
three floors
camping. You're
together
not allowed to
cover
camp
all
the
of the
corner.
out-of-bounds. So this case gets a happy face.
But
And then finally, let's look at leaning a little forwards. Here, the wall triangle is still a wall, just a slightly leaning wall. Now let's show the floor hitboxes. The two original floors are still separated a bit, but now there's no third floor to cover the area in between. All
Yeah,
we have is a wall
that is
there,
allowed.
but walls don't cover out of bounds. It's like the wall took on the responsibility of a floor, but doesn't actually have the
Alright,
powers
hold
of
on,
a
wait,
floor.
before-
And so if
let
we
me
show
make
the
sure-
out of bounds area,
Let's
we
see
can see
here.
that a tiny sliver of out of bounds
Alright,
makes through
everyone
the
go-
leaning
everyone
wall.
go on top
and
of
that
gazebo.
sliver of out of bounds would be classified as an
And you
invisible wall.
two
This
stay
type
in the
of
corner.
invisible wall has
I
caused a lot
am
of
just making
frustration
sure
over
that
the
no one's
years.
griefing.
Like,
You
think
two
about
stay
this
in the
kind of
corner.
invisible wall
Bro, go on
compared
top
to
of
the
gazebo,
previous
stop
three
chasing.
causes that we looked at. These three causes
on
aren't
top of
actually
gazebo.
that annoying. For the walls with no texture, those are put there intentionally to prevent you from going to places
Wait,
that
I
you're
think
not
that's a
supposed
new
to
guy.
go
I'm
to.
sorry if
So
that
they
came
don't
out
really
as
get in
rude.
the
There's a
way
lot
when
of
you're going to
dumb
places
people
that you are
recently
supposed to go
who
to.
won't,
For
who
the
just
ceiling
keep
hitboxes,
disobeying
those
over
are
and
mainly
over
just
again.
above rooms and
So,
inside enclosed structures,
Alright, so
which are
there's
places
just
that
that
you don't
one.
normally
Oh, I guess
interact
that one
with.
guy.
Well,
The
aside
one
from the
peep.
arches
That
and the
one
tall,
guy
tall
just
mountain
died.
slide
So
and the
just
bridge
pretend he
flags
doesn't
in Cool
exist.
Mountain. Those ones can
So
get in
you
your way.
four.
And then for out of bounds
How
on
about
the
this?
course
How
edge,
about
you know where
the-
those are, and it's
the
not like they're in the
king
way
can do the
because they're only
countdown.
on the edges of the course. But for this most recent type of
So just say
invisible wall,
3,
it's
2,
just
1,
in the
go,
middle of the
and then
course
that's
out
when
in the
everyone
open.
goes.
It
When
could
you
even
say
be
go,
on the
everyone
path
goes.
that you're supposed to use, so you might just bonk on it out of nowhere while you're trying to beat the
Yeah,
game.
we have to go back
So
to the
this
first
type
corner
of
we were
invisible
at a second
wall,
ago.
along with the rest that we're going to cover, are in some sense the real invisible walls, because they're the ones that frustrate players and give a bad name to invisible walls. So I'm going to give this case an angry face. So to summarize, we
Well,
looked at
if
5
here's the
possible
thing,
slants
alright?
of the wall
So if
triangle,
people are
and
on the
only a
wall,
wall
pretend
that's
there's a
leaning
lava
slightly
monkey
forwards causes
chasing
there
me.
to be a
If
floor
I
gap that
jump
lets out
and
a
I get
bounds
tagged
leak through.
mid-air
If we
and
move
I
the
run
upper
into
vertex
people,
around
that's
continuously,
not
you
griefing
can see that
because
it's
it was
only a
like
very
there's no
narrow
way to
range
stop
that
that
lets
from
the
happening.
out-of-bounds leak through.
Actually, how about this?
Basically, the
Every
wall
time you
triangle
jump
has
to
be
the
leaning
corner,
forwards so that there's a
aim
gap
for the
between
top
lower
of the
floor and
corner.
upper
That way, if
floor,
you get
but the wall
tagged
can't be
mid-air,
leaning too far
you can
forwards,
step
or else it
away.
acts as a floor that covers that gap.
Alright?
Now, I think it would also be useful to see what each of these 5 cases looks like from a
Alright.
top-down view. When the wall
Well, is
leans
the king
very
gonna
far
do-
back,
oh,
the floors
you're not
overlap.
doing the countdown
You can
because
tell
people
because
are
the
off.
overlap area
Get on
is
top
an
of
extra
gazebo.
dark shade of blue. When the wall leans a little back,
Get
there's
up
still
there.
a floor overlap, but a bit smaller in area. When the wall's perfectly vertical, there's no floor overlap
he's having
or
a
floor
seizure.
gap.
Just
The whole
ignore
thing is
him.
just
I don't
a
think he's
uniform
playing.
shade of blue. When the wall leans a little forwards, now
Oh,
there's
wait,
a floor
wait.
gap.
Wait,
You can tell because
wait.
there's some white in the
He's
middle
going
of
on
all
top
the
of
blue.
gazebo again.
And remember,
Alright, guys,
that
get
white
in the
area
corner.
is actually covered by the wall
I
triangle,
said
but
only
that doesn't
I'm
really
allowed to
do
be on the
anything.
corner, and that's
And
only the
finally,
check
when the
before
wall
the
leans very
countdown.
far forward, then the wall turns into
Alright.
a floor which covers
Remember,
the
you
gap.
have to be in the
So
corner.
yeah, it's only
You
the
can
one
go as
case
high
that
as you want
causes
in the
floor
corner
gaps. But
before the
interestingly, floor
countdown,
gaps don't
but after the
necessarily cause
countdown,
invisible
you have to be
walls.
on the ground
See,
in
there
the
are
other
actually
corner.
3 cases for
If
what
you wanna
effect
be
a floor
safe.
gap has, because it
To
depends
be
on what's
safe, you
below
have to
the
make
floor
it to the
gap.
ground
Case
in the
1,
other
there's
corner.
another floor below the floor gap.
Alright, let me just
In
make
this
sure.
case, Mario can freely jump
Alright,
over the
looks like
floor
everyone's
gap
up
and
there.
not hit any
Now the
invisible
king,
walls.
you can do the
He can
countdown
also
whenever
go
you're
into
ready.
the floor
Mario,
gap
you
and
on the
fall
ground.
through to the floor below, assuming there are no wall hitboxes in the way. Then case 2, there are no floors below the floor gap. Like we saw a second ago, this lets a tiny sliver of out of bounds leak through. If Mario jumps into that sliver, he'll bonk, and if he walks into it, he'll push. And then
What the?
case
I just
3,
got tagged by
there's a
the air.
ceiling
What was
below the
that?
floor gap. This ceiling has a lower hitbox, but we don't care about that. It's the
Bro,
upper
you were
hitbox
over
that causes
here.
a tiny sliver of
So
ceiling
you were
to leak
over
through.
here when I was
So this
over
would
here. What
also
do you mean
count
you
as an
tagged me?
exposed ceiling hitbox.
I got tagged.
And just
I
like the
turned
sliver
around
of out of
instantly.
bounds, the sliver
And
of
then you were
ceiling
right
lets us
here,
bonk on
walking
it and
towards me
lets us
slowly.
push on it. So it's only
It
case
wasn't
2
not
and case
you.
3 that cause invisible walls.
Wait,
Now,
wait,
if you
don't
ever
tag him,
encounter
don't tag
an
him,
invisible
don't
wall
tag
like
him.
this, it
He
might
still
not
has
be
some-
obvious whether it's
Oh,
from out
you
of
made it.
bounds
Alright,
or
don't
from a
tag him.
ceiling.
Still don't tag him.
Since
We
you
still have to
know
do the final
invisible
round.
walls are invisible,
It's
so
lava,
in the
it's
game,
the
we
final,
wouldn't
it's
see
like
the
a
hitbox
manhunt
colors that I'm
round,
showing here.
but not exactly.
But remember,
It's
only
the
ceilings cut short
it's
your
the
upwards
color
trajectory.
versus
So a
lava
quick and simple way
final
to
round.
distinguish
It's a
between
little
these two
thing that I
cases
like
is
to
to
add.
jump up into
So
the
I'll do the
invisible wall.
countdown
If it
because
lets
I'm
you
the
jump
streamer
up,
and
then it's
I'm
out of
not
bounds,
a
and if it
color
stops
monkey.
you from jumping up, then
Alright.
it's a ceiling.
I
So
just
let's
have to
look
make
at
sure
an
everyone's
example.
up here.
In Bob on Battlefield, there's this wall on a floor
Let
seam.
me just check the
Here are the
leaderboard.
floor edges on both sides of the seam,
1, 2,
which are
3,
subdivided
4, 5,
differently
6.
due to the
1,
steps.
2,
And based
3,
on
4, 5,
those, here are
6.
the edge vertices. Now you may be wondering why
1,
it looks
2,
like
3,
I'm showing the
4.
same thing
There's
on the
2
left
lava
and the
monkey.
right.
Alright, hold on.
Well, they're
1,
actually
2,
different
3, 4,
camera
5,
modes.
6.
See,
Alright,
the one on the
3,
left is a perspective view, meaning that things get
2,
smaller as
go.
they go farther away from the camera. So it's like the normal camera mode that you'd see in the game. In contrast, the one on the right is an
Predictable.
orthographic view, meaning that things stay the same size regardless of how far away
Alright,
from the camera
everyone
they are.
get in your
This
spot.
orthographic view is useful because it allows us to have a nice
If you
looking
can't
top-down
see,
view.
just open
So
your
next,
eyes.
let's show all the course's floor triangles. And now
Breathe
we're going to zoom in
air.
on each edge vertex
See
to see how
light.
it misses its edge.
Eat
Like, does it
food.
cause a floor overlap
That's
or
all I
a
have to
floor
do to
gap?
be-
The way this
Drink
one misses
water.
is by causing a floor gap, because you can see the white area between the floor.
That
For
was
each
an
of
easy
those
round.
integer coordinates, let's add
Now
the
it's time for the
arrow
hard
facing
round,
away
because
from
now
the
I'm
origin,
gonna be a
and then
lava
fill in
monkey.
those
I'm
unit
letting
squares
you tag
with
me.
gray for out of bounds.
Oh wait, there's
And
still
now let's
someone out
pan
there.
across
There's
the
still someone
seam
out there.
so
Hold
that
on,
we
there
can
might
see all
be
of
there
the
might
unit
still be a
squares
chance.
of out of bounds. So each of the unit squares on the right
If
represents a
you
little
don't get the
sliver
blue
of
guy,
out of
if you don't
bounds
get the
that
blue
leaks
guy, I'll
through
let you
the
get me.
leading wall. And as
Alright,
we're
I'll let
panning
you
on the
get me.
right, I'm adding these slivers
This
on
might
the left
be the
so
last
that you can
round.
see them in 3D. They're basically square columns that are 1 unit wide, though I'm drawing them
Don't
each as
forget,
1 pixel
guys.
wide because that's what's easiest to see. So that's the whole seam.
Oh, I
Interestingly,
forgot.
there's
I
one
forgot.
point near the middle of the
I forgot
seam
to
that
unblock.
lies
Don't do
on
the
the
countdown yet.
x-axis. So that point has
I forgot
2
to
arrows
unblock
and
the screen,
causes
'cause
2
I'm done
unit
with the-
squares of invisible wall. So yeah, that's how the out of bounds units are distributed along the seam.
I'm
On the
we're not
left, if
playing
we zoom in
Ghosts
a
in the
bit,
Graveyard
you can see
anymore,
the
and I
2
forgot
unit
to
columns in the middle that
undo-
are extra close together, since they're both from that point on the
I forgot to-
x-axis.
oh.
And if we step back a little, you can see just
I forgot
how
to
high up this
undo
invisible
the-
wall goes, all
the
way to
screen
top of the
blackout.
course at a height of 32,768. So it's pretty weird. There's just this invisible wall that goes way higher up than anything else. And of course, because it's an invisible wall, that means anytime you go through that spot, you may end up bonking on
not
it
yet, not yet.
out of
I have to get my
nowhere. On
controllers.
the other hand, you may end up passing right through it. So
Yeah,
why
but you
is it
can
that
do
you
the
only
countdown
hit
when I'm
some
ready.
points? Well, let me explain. Here's a
Yeah, I'm still
top-down view of
streaming.
the
I
unit
forgot to
grid. And
unblock
let's say
the
we have
screen 'cause I'm
invisible
not
wall
hiding
units
anymore.
on a
I'm playing a
seam
different
like
game.
this. Now,
Alright, you
normally
can start
invisible
counting
wall
whenever.
units are at a slanted angle. But just to keep this demonstration simple, we're going to say that they're all in a nice row like this. And let's say Mario's currently south of the invisible wall seam and wants to cross it going north. Now it's important to understand exactly how Mario's movement works.
I am the monkey.
Mario has a
I am
horizontal
the alpha, the
scale
leader, and
that
the one.
represents how many units forwards he moves per frame.
I told
For
you.
example,
I told you.
Mario's
The
speed is
last
8,
round.
and he moves 8 units forwards per frame. But even
I'm
that's a
just
simplification because the
I'm
game
just
doesn't move Mario forwards all at once. Instead, it
What's
takes the
it in the
speed and
new
subdivides it
data?
into
I
4
think
equal
I'm
pieces
seven
called
rows
quarter
behind.
steps. So a
I'm
speed of
dead.
8 would be subdivided into 4 quarter
I just
steps,
went
each
right
having
inside
sides
you and I
of
didn't
2.
get tapped.
Then on each frame, Mario moves forwards by 4 quarter
Alright, now we're
steps.
gonna play
So in the game,
no
you'd
running
see
in the
Mario
halls.
before he does the 4 quarter steps. You'd see Mario after he does the 4 quarter steps, but you wouldn't see him at these intermediate positions because they happen mid-frame. But I'll still
Alright,
show
guys,
them
we're gonna
here
play no
because they're
running in
very
the halls.
relevant for this discussion. So here, I'm making full
Actually,
steps
wait, do you
pink
guys wanna
and
play no
quarter
running in
steps
the
yellow
halls,
so
or
that
do you
it's
guys
easy
wanna
to
play stack
distinguish
champion?
them. Earlier, when I showed movement arrows, they were kind of
It's
a
in
mishmash
cave?
Between quarter steps and full steps because I
Wait,
was
you
simplifying.
you've seriously
But you
never
see,
heard of
it's
no
only
running in
every
the
full
halls
step that
and
Mario's animation
statues?
updates and
You've
gravity
never heard of
applies,
either of them?
while it's every quarter step that floors, walls, ceilings, and out of bounds apply. Since here, we're interested in where Mario
Bruh,
hits
it used to be
invisible
so
walls,
fun,
which are
and then
ceilings
they
and out of
revamped
bounds,
caves,
we're
and
only
everyone
gonna focus
forgot
on
about
the
it.
quarter step arrows. And I'll add even more arrows to his pathing, because we're interested in whether he hits the invisible wall at any point point in his
There's-
pathing, not just on the next frame.
Actually,
Anyway,
yeah.
since Mario's moving
Guys,
forward
let's go
2
to
units
the
at a time,
rotating
it
map. Let's
covers
go to
every
Beta
second.
Caves.
That means there are 2 kinds
Or
of
as
spacing.
the people
Spacing
that
like
are too
this,
young
and
to own a
spacing that's
VR
offset
call
by
it
1 unit
the
like
backwards.
this. You can think of them as one covers the even unit squares.
It's
and
the
one covers
rotating
the
map.
odd
It's
unit squares.
Beta
If
Caves.
we
It's
look
the
at
first ever
invisible
cave,
wall
like
you can see that the
before they
pattern on the
released the
left
game on
skips
Steam.
straight over the seam, while the pattern
We're gonna
on the
play
right
no running in the
Since
halls
invisible
there.
walls stop your movement, I'll remove all the arrows after the collision and put this symbol at the collision point.
It's
So
Beta
in this
Caves.
example,
It's
there's
caves
a 50% chance that
before
we hit the invisible
before
wall,
it
since
released.
1 out of every 2 spacings
It's
hits
caves
it.
from Gorilla
Another way
Tag
to
back
say
when
this
Gorilla
is if we
Tag
take just
wasn't
one of the spacings and move the
before
starting
gorillas
point
were added.
continuously. You can see that half the
Don't
time it
tag
makes
me.
it through and half the time it stops.
Don't tag
so
me.
that's why invisible walls can seem
Oh, never
sort of
mind. I'm
random,
last. I didn't
even
know
though
that.
they're always
Alright, so
there.
everyone
But
go
you're
down
not
the
guaranteed
entrance.
to hit them
Go
when
to
you
the
cross
bottom of
seam.
the entrance.
Instead, it just comes down to whether your spacing crosses over it or goes into it. So
I'm
in
gonna
theory,
get the
you
other
can always
people.
avoid hitting them by controlling your spacing just right, but in practice, at least casually, that's way too precise to control.
Guys,
Luckily, there are some other
go.
factors that are easier to
You
control
guys
that
stay
also
down
affect how
there.
often
There's a
you
few
hit
people
it.
who don't know
For
where the.
example, your speed.
There's a few people
So
that
far,
somehow
we've
don't
just
know
been
where the
working with
rotating
speed
map is,
speed,
even
which
though
has
it's been
quarter
out for
steps
multiple
size
months.
2. But let's double that to 16
the hole
speed, which
over
has
here.
quarter
Go
steps
down
of
there.
size 4. This time we have 4 different spacings, which you can think
Just
of
go
as
down there and
covering
then
all
go
the
to
unit
the
squares that
bottom
are a
of the
multiple
entrance,
of 4, 1
and just
more than
keep
a
going
multiple
until you
of
see
4,
people.
2 more than a multiple of
Is that
4,
everyone?
and 3
Is
more than a
everyone
multiple
inside
of
of
4. There
the?
wouldn't be any more
Is
than that,
everybody
because
inside
like,
of
if
the
you ended up
rotation
taking
map?
4 more than a multiple of 4, then really it's just the same spacing as the first
What do you
case,
mean you
but
can't find the
starting 1
rotation
quarter
map?
step
Just go
forwards.
to where the
But
rotation
anyway,
map
you
is.
can see that only
It's been
one
out
of
for
the
so
4
many months.
spacings
I'm
hits the
surprised
invisible
people
wall,
don't know where it
meaning
is.
that there's a 1/4 chance of hitting it. And just like before, we can also see this by taking one of the spacings and moving it continuously. Most of the time,
I am
it makes it
extremely
through, but
surprised you
1/4 of
don't.
the time,
It's
it
in
hits the
city.
invisible wall and
Do you need me to
stops.
tell you
So
where
at 8
city
speed,
is?
there was a 50% chance of hitting the invisible wall, and at 16 speed,
Alright,
there was only a 25%
so you go to city,
chance
right,
of
and then
hitting
you
it.
go to the
So
competitive
basically,
course.
the faster Mario's moving, the smaller the chance of hitting the invisible wall. Because more speed means your quarter
Yeah, it's the
steps
place
cover more
that had a
distance, and
swamp.
then they're more likely to pass
It's
right
the
over
place
the
that it's
invisible
not
wall
the
units.
swamp map. It's called
Separately,
rotation
your chance of
map
hitting the
because
invisible
there's a
wall also
new
depends
map
on
every
Mario's
few
angle to
updates.
the invisible wall seam. Currently, we're moving perpendicularly to the seam.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
not the
optimal
swamp
if you're trying to
anymore.
avoid
They
hitting
change it every few days.
So that'll be the
I mean,
control
no, not
case
days. I mean, every
compared to this
few,
case of
every
Mario
few
turned at an
updates.
angle. At this angle, each quarter step moves 3.5 units to the right and 2 units forwards. Now, if you think about this, the 3.5 units to the right doesn't contribute towards crossing the seam.
Alright, so if
And
you go
it's
inside
that
of
part
the-
the
so
movement
did
that's
you
going
go to
waste
the
at this
rotation
angle.
map
It's
now?
only the 2 units forwards that makes progress towards crossing the seam. If we move both cases vertically, you can see that the angled case hits the invisible wall twice as much
It's
as the
always
control
been called
case,
rotation
since the
map.
control case moves forwards 4 units at a time, while the angled case moves forwards only 2 units at a time. So even though they're the same speed,
Wait, what is
the
it?
angle
Hold on,
changes how
don't
much
time
of
me,
your
don't time
speed
me.
contributes
Let
towards
me
getting
check.
past the invisible wall. Going perpendicularly uses all of the speed to try to get past the invisible wall, while
Yeah,
a
it says
slanted angle
rotating. When
only
you go
uses
to
a
Q, it
component
says
of the speed
rotating
to try to get
because
past
it's
it.
the rotating.
And now
map.
watch this. If we make Mario's angle even more slanted,
Yeah.
now he moves
Alright,
3.9
so pretty
units
much,
to the right and only 1 unit
raise
to
your
the left.
hand if
Since
you're
the
new to
invisible
the game
wall is
and don't
1
know how to
unit thick,
play No
that
Running
means
in the
Mario
Hall.
can't even cross it now. See, no matter where he starts, his quarter steps just don't move forwards enough to
Alright.
cross the seam.
Come down
recap
here,
so far,
level
if
you
you're
go
trying to
last.
avoid
Alright, I
hitting
don't
that
want you to
invisible
tag
wall,
anyone.
then you should be moving at a fast
Yes.
speed and moving perpendicularly to the seam.
Alright,
But
so,
if you're
like,
trying to hit the
go, like,
invisible
that
wall,
way.
then you should be
Like, go-
moving
go
at a
to that
slow
level.
speed and moving nearly parallel
And
to
you,
the seam.
yeah, just
But there are
Now
also
you stay
properties
in
of the
that
invisible
corner,
wall
alright?
itself that
I don't
affect
want you
how
to tag
often
anyone
you
on
hit
that
it. Up until now,
Actually, how about
we've
you
just
go
been
to,
looking
like,
at the
that wall?
simplest
No,
example
you
of an invisible
go.
wall,
So
which is a
all
1
the monkeys
unit
go
thick
that way.
continuous seam.
And then the
But
lava
invisible
monkey
walls often
goes,
don't
like,
look
right
like
here.
this. For example, maybe we
Like,
have
right
an
here.
invisible wall
Alright.
that looks like this.
Yeah,
where
like,
it's
right
2
there is
units
good.
thick.
Now,
Now,
color
if we
monkey
look at all
goes
the
over there
spacings,
in that
we can
wall.
see that 2 of the 4
Where did you guys
spacings
go?
hit
You
it,
guys have
which
to
is
be
a
right here in
50%
this corner
chance.
because your
In
colors.
other words, the thicker the
Yep,
invisible
yep.
wall is, the higher the chance
Here it
of
is
hitting
with the
it.
corner
On the
again,
other
and no
hand,
one's
we
gonna
might
lift.
instead have
Alright,
something
I'm
more like
surprised you
this,
guys
where
learned
only
the
every
corner.
second unit on
I'm
the
joking,
scene
you
is
guys
a
are new
visible
people.
wall.
I think
Now,
only one
not
of you
only do we have
guys were
4
here
possible
in
vertical
the Glug Go
spacings,
Gug
but we
Love
have 2 possible
loop.
horizontal spaces.
So pretty much no
because
running
you
in
may
the
or may
halls
not line up
is is where you have to be walking, you
To
cannot
illustrate
stop
this, we
moving,
can subdivide each of
and
the
if a lava
existing
monkey
cases
sees
into
you
two
run,
cases.
the lava
So
monkey has
now,
to chase
we have
you,
4 different
but
classes of
if you
vertical
leave the lava
spacings,
monkey's
3 of them cross right
field
over the
of
scene,
view
but 1 of
by
them
just
lands
like
on the
turning
scene
the corner
directly,
before
not
them or
necessarily on
something
an
like
invisible
that,
wall unit,
but, and then
but just
start
on the
walking
scene.
again, the
And
lava
separately,
monkey
we have
can't
2
get
different
you
classes
until the
of
lava monkey
horizontal
sees you running.
spacings. One
And
of
you
them
cannot
passes
walk the
between
whole time, you have
invisible wall
to
units,
run
while the
once
other one
every
lines
like
up with an
3
invisible
minutes.
wall unit. So in total, that's 8 possible spacings.
There's no
only one of
goal,
which
it's
hits
just to be the
invisible
last
wall.
person
So there's
to
a 1 in 8
survive.
chance of hitting it. Another way of saying it is, there's
What?
a 1 in 4 chance that we land on the seam, and a 1 in 2 chance that we line up with an invisible wall unit. So multiply those together, and you get that there's a 1
Well,
in 8
you
chance
see, there's a
of
little
hitting
thing
the
called turning
invisible
the
wall.
corner slope.
And note that this is in comparison to before, when it was a continuous seam, where we had a 1/4 chance of hitting it. But now that it's
How
half
does
extended, we
this
only have
look like
half
right
that
now?
chance of hitting it, which is 1/8. So basically, the denser the invisible wall is, the higher the chance of hitting it. And finally, many invisible walls don't even have a
Then just,
uniform spacing.
how about this? How about you just
seam.
turn the
For
corner
example,
extremely
maybe it's
slowly
more
by
dense on the
turning in
left
real
and
life
less
slope.
dense on the right. In this case, trying to cross it on the left side is more likely to hit it, and trying to cross it on the right side is less likely to hit it. So yeah, that's the basics of interacting with this kind of invisible
So I
wall.
think like
That should help you
running is like
understand and
probably
appreciate
like
the rest of
this.
the examples as we go
This would
through
be
them.
like running.
Now, I'm not just gonna show you
Like,
a few examples
anything-
and call it a day. That's not
Like, how
we
about
do
this? How
things
about you
here.
just do
Instead,
like the
I'm gonna show
PvP
you
walk,
every invisible
like this.
wall in
That's
the
how you.
game
That's how you
for
walk.
a few reasons. First, I want this video to serve as a reference guide.
Yeah,
for
but
every
don't do
invisible
it too
wall,
fast.
showing where they are and what they
Alright,
look
you
like.
guys know how to
That
play.
way, the next
Now
time
let's
you
start.
bump
Bob
into
Monkey,
one, you
get
can
on
come
top
back
of
here
that
and see
step right
exactly
there.
why it's there. And second,
And
I want
then
to show you
all
just
of
how
us have
prevalent
to.
invisible
We
walls
have to
are,
start
and just
here,
how
so all
sketchy
the
this
levels
game
have
is.
to be
That
here.
way, you won't feel so bad about
Now
bumping
this
into
part
them.
is just a little starting
They're
stuff
so
that I'm
abundant
making
that you
up.
didn't
So
really stand
guys,
a chance.
come over
So,
here and like
if
you
you
see
do
where
want
there's
to
a
see
line
every
where the light
example,
is. Just
because
get
you
on
want
the
to know
line
every
like right
inch of
here.
this game's weirdness, then you can just sit back and relax as I break it all down for you. And if
Not
you
that
don't
long
want to
ago, I
watch all
almost
the
ended the
examples
stream because
because
no
you
one
see
was
some of
listening,
them
and
and
now
get
you
the
guys
gist
are
of it,
listening even
that's
more,
fine too.
like,
You can skip
exact
forward to
than-
the next section using YouTube's chapter system. And so
Not
now,
anymore,
let's
he
get
just
into
went
the
back to normal.
examples. So also in Bob on
Alright, that was
Battlefield,
it.
we
Alright,
have this
come on,
wall
come
on
on.
the bar fence, based on
Now,
how its edges are subdivided.
when we
and
start
one edge
running, we can
vertex
just
on
run
the
in any
bottom
direction,
misses its edge
and
by
then you have
causing
to
a
count to
floor gap.
10,
And so that
and
means
then
that
once
all
you count
along the
to
seam
10,
our units have out of
you have
bounds.
to
Note that the
start
density
running.
of this invisible wall varies.
Oh wait, guys,
from
stay away from
seam.
each other.
There are
I
even some
think that
gaps
guy
in
might
it.
have
And so
died. His headset
basically,
couldn't
if you
go.
ever go above this
And I don't
bar
want
fence,
you
may end
guys
up
to
walking
tag
on
each
this
other. So let's
invisible wall.
separate from each
And
other,
remember
like
earlier
by
when I
like,
showed
I
that
don't
you
know,
could
an
walk
arm's
inside a
length.
ceiling hitbox and get reflected every frame? Well, you can also do that
I
on
don't-
this kind
I don't
of invisible
choose.
wall.
That's not something-
Essentially, by
you
wedging
can't
yourself
choose who
between
the
two of the unit
first
columns.
lava monkey
Playing
is.
it again, if we pause it and zoom in, we can see exactly what's going on. So on this frame,
Yeah,
Mario does a
everyone,
quarter step
just
going
like-
forwards as part of the dive.
So
action.
everyone
This
go on
quarter
a
step
different
lands
step.
on a
Like
unit
that guy's
square
on that
out of
step,
bounds,
you're
so
on
it
that
gets
step.
canceled and Mario
I'll be on
falls.
this step.
Though note that Mario's
And then
bonking
you- and
animation
then,
is one frame behind what it should be, so on the left it doesn't quite look like he bonked yet. I mean, you can see the star particles, but his animation
Actually, I
is
have an
still
idea.
tiny.
Everyone
And his
stay
bonking
here.
is
I'm gonna be
next,
the
he
first
moves
lava
backwards
monkey.
a quarter step, which also lands on a unit square of out of bounds, so that gets
Oh,
canceled
never
too,
mind.
and
He
Mario
left.
reflects his angle. And now since he's still bonking, he does another quarter step backwards the other way, which also lands on the unit
Alright,
square
so
of
now
out of bounds.
everyone get
So
like,
that
right
quarter
here.
step gets canceled and causes another reflection. And now we're back to the same
Alright,
state
now-
as
now
before,
you
so it just
count to
repeats
10.
over
When
and
you
over.
start counting,
Mario
we have
just
to run
bounces
this
back and
anyway.
forth between those two unit squares. So yeah, that's why that can happen. Then still in Bob on Battlefield, we have this wall on the far side of the gap in the mountain path.
And
it has two
falling
edge
does
vertices
not
on the
count as
top.
running.
Interestingly, the left edge vertex causes a floor overlap, so that's fine.
Unless
but
it's
the edge
like-
vertex on the right causes
falling
a floor
doesn't
gap,
count as
which is where the
running,
problem is.
but
So near
jumping,
that right
like,
edge
if
vertex,
you
we have
jump
some unit columns of out of
too
bounds,
high, like
specifically
small
two
hops
groups
are
of it.
good,
Now this
but, like,
invisible
big
wall is
jumps
especially evil because if
are
you hit it, you fall into the
counter-effective.
gap. Like, I can't imagine a worse first place in Bob on Battlefield to have an invisible wall, then on the far side of a gap you have to jump over. Then even still in Bob on Battlefield, we have this wall right
Also,
after
you
the bridge
can't
on the
stop
mountain.
moving. I
It's
forgot
kind
to
of a weird
mention
shape, but it has one edge vertex on the top
Hello.
near the bridge.
You
This
cannot
edge
stop
vertex
moving for
misses
more
its
than 3
edge by
seconds.
causing a floor gap, which means
So,
that there are some
ignore the fact
unicorns
that
are
I'm-
out of bounds near the bridge.
So, like,
And
if I
once it's
fell,
complete,
that
if you zoom
doesn't
in on
count
the
as-
bridge, you can
so,
see
like
that some of
this,
the unit columns
fell, so
actually
that
rise up
doesn't count
into
as
the
a
bridge. And so they stop there instead of continuing to rise up. But anyway, that means that for this gap too, if you try to jump over it, you may end up hitting this invisible
Jolly
wall
Roger.
and falling into the gap. And one more in Bob on Battlefield, we have this wall
It's
below
Jolly
the upper
Roger.
alcove in the mountain. It has 2 edge vertices.
Uh,
Zooming in, we can see that the right one causes a floor overlap and the left one causes a floor gap. So the result is that mainly on the left side of the alcove,
like,
we
small
have some
talks
unit
like
columns
this is
of out
good,
of bounds.
but
And
we're
these ones
playing
are fully
no running in the
contained
halls.
within the alcove. So this means anytime you enter or exit
So,
this
pretty
alcove,
much,
you might bonk on this
so
invisible wall.
if
Then in
the
Jolly
color
Roger
monkey
Bay,
runs,
we have
you have
this
to chase
wall
it
on
and
the
try
right
to
side
tag
of this
it.
alcove.
But if
It has
the
one edge
color
vertex
monkey
on the
leaves
top.
your
Will
sight,
there be a floor
like let's say he
overlap or a floor
turns a
gap?
corner
It's a floor
really
gap.
fast.
I mean, it has to be. Otherwise, why would we be here
If someone,
examining
no,
it?
don't. We're
The
not
cool thing
restarting.
about
We're not
this one
restarting.
is
And
that
you
it only
cannot
has
stop
4
moving for
unit
more than
columns
3
of out of
seconds.
bounds, so you can see each one of them.
And you cannot
individually.
camp
And since
people.
this one's in water, we can swim into it.
Falling
which
does
cancels
not
our
count as
movement,
running,
so we
so
just
like
end
if I
up
fell
swimming in
down like
place.
this,
So it looks pretty odd.
this is
And
not
in the
running,
Jolly Roger
this is
Bay
falling.
ship, we got a lot going on. So first, there's this lowest platform that has a wall with an edge vertex, and so it has an invisible wall on its edge.
Bro, that is not how
And
Baldi
next, we have
works,
this slightly
bro.
higher platform. Very similar thing going on here, because the bottom of this wall has an edge vertex leading to another.
That's how
Then
schools
on one
work.
of the higher platforms, we have yet another wall with an edge vertex that
Leave us
causes
alone.
an invisible wall.
You need to
So that
leave.
makes
You're
3
not allowed to
platforms
camp.
with invisible walls, but can we get a 4th one? And yes, we can, on the highest platform of them all.
Banana Hat
This
is
time,
already
the wall's a
available.
slightly different shape, and there are only 3 unit columns of out of bounds. So yeah, those are the 4 platforms with this type of invisible wall. So if you thought climbing up these platforms was hard on its own, just remember that out of nowhere, you
No,
might
wait,
bonk
but he
up
turned the
these
corner.
invisible
He
walls.
left his sight.
Hey,
He
at
turned
least
the
now you
corner
know where they
already.
are, so you can avoid them. Or hit them on purpose, if that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge. Then in Cool Cool Mountain, we have this wall. It's like an upside down triangle, so it has 1 edge vertex on the bottom. Now, if we show all the floors except the death
What?
barrier, you can see that there are some floor gaps.
I stopped
But this
running
time,
before
they're
you
built
turned
in
the
ceiling
corner.
instead of out of bounds. Because if we look on the bottom of this structure, we can see the ceiling down here.
Bro,
has
I
upper
look like
hitbox leads
directly in
through
front
those
of
floor
me.
gaps. So what that means is that all along the seam, there are unit columns of ceiling leaking through.
I saw that.
Now, as a general rule,
I
in
saw that,
courses
buddy.
with death
You did this.
barriers, all the invisible walls coming out of floor gaps will be due to ceilings and not out of bounds. Because think about it, if the course has a death barrier,
I
then
got
the
it.
whole thing is protected from out of bounds. That means you wouldn't find out of bounds anywhere in the main part of the
Oh, that was
course.
what I was
And
gonna
it's not
say.
like the course geometry can generate its own out of bounds.
Oh, wait, you're
That's not
last.
how that works. Here's another
You
way
won.
to think about it. Let's say we have a floor and it
By
has
the
a
way,
floor
I'm
gap.
just letting you know,
order
in
for
case
this
you
floor
didn't
gap to
know,
have out of
you
bounds
have
under
to
it, there
run
would have to
once
be no
every
floor
like 3
under it,
minutes.
because that's what
For
out
2
of bounds
minutes,
means. But even if the main part of the course doesn't have any floors under it, the death barrier is still guaranteed to be a floor under it. So it's just not possible to have out of bounds come out of the floor gap. Instead, the only way for there to be an invisible wall coming out of the floor gap would be if there's a ceiling hitbox leaking through it. Because courses can generate
bro,
their
hold
own
on.
ceiling hitboxes.
Bro, why are you
Now, let me
tagging us,
clarify
bro?
how
We're
jumping
playing a
the ceiling
minigame.
columns works. Basically,
Little
there are
2-year-olds
three
like you
cases.
love
Case
minigames.
one,
Why are
you
you
move
tagging
into the
us in the
ceiling
middle of
column
one?
while falling down. In this case,
Little-
your quarter
little
step gets
babies like
canceled
you
and
love
bonk,
this.
assuming you're moving fast enough. Then case 2, you move into the ceiling column while moving upwards. Then your quarter step gets canceled and the ceiling cuts short your upwards trajectory, meaning
No,
you'll now
you're
start
not rating
falling
our
down.
server. Your
But then let's say
server
you
ain't
miss the
alright.
ceiling column on the next frame, either because your speed changed or you're holding a slightly different angle on the control stick. Then you'll pass
You
right
don't
through
see-
the invisible wall and continue with your
What?
trajectory, though it'll now be moving downwards. And then case 3, you move into the ceiling column while moving upwards, so your quarter step gets canceled and it cuts short your upwards trajectory, and then you hit the ceiling column again on the next frame with your downwards trajectory. Then just like the first case, your quarter step gets canceled, assuming you're moving fast enough. So it kind of looks like you went straight from moving upwards to bonking, but it was actually a 2-frame process because of the way ceilings work. So yeah, those are the 3 main interactions that
That's
can happen when you
crazy.
jump into a seam of
Also,
ceiling
it wasn't a
hitbox.
kid, it was like
So going
like-
back to the
like
game,
15
let me
years.
show you what these
Alright,
interactions
everyone go
look
down.
like.
Don't
So
get
first I hit
tagged.
the
Not the
ceiling
first
while
level
moving
monkey.
downwards, which causes me to bonk.
Thank you.
Next I hit it while moving
Bro,
upwards.
if you don't
and
leave,
rest
you're
it
breathing.
afterwards, so it cuts
I
short
mean, not
the
leave the server, I mean like go
and then I
down.
hit it 2 frames in a row,
Hey,
so it
burns,
looks like I go straight from
burns,
moving
my
upwards
rings
to
on
bonking.
fire.
but it actually took 2 frames. And like I mentioned earlier, an easy way to confirm that this invisible wall is a ceiling is to just walk into it and then try jumping. You can see that my jumps don't go
Alright
anywhere,
guys, I'm
meaning
gonna
it's a
give you guys
ceiling.
10 seconds
On the
to
other
run,
hand, if we push
and
against
then
an
after
invisible
10
wall that's out of
seconds,
bounds and
9
then try
seconds,
jumping, the
8
jumps actually
seconds,
go
7
up.
seconds,
And next in
6
Cool Cool
seconds,
Mountain, we have
5
this wall.
seconds,
It's a pretty
4
interesting
seconds,
shape because
3
there's like a little
seconds,
overhang
2
structure on the
seconds,
right.
1
And here are the
second.
relevant
The game has
edge
started.
vertices. So the first one misses by causing a floor gap, then a floor overlap. Now let's zoom out and hide some of the lower floors to make this next part easier to see. So then we have a floor overlap, and the last one is a floor gap. And based on our earlier discussion, you should already know that these ones are going to be ceiling leaking through and not out of bounds.
I saw that
Since
one.
Cool Cool Mountain has a death barrier.
I saw that you
Now
were-
you can see that there are 2 sections of invisible wall.
We're going like
The
this.
section on the left is due to this ceiling on the underside of the wood.
I saw
And the
that
section
little
on the
boy.
right is due to this ceiling on the underside of the overhang. So these invisible walls
Bro.
could get in your way if you're doing
Bro, skipped
movement
the part
near
to the
right
blue.
start. And remember, the bridge flap invisible wall is around
I
here
saw
too.
you.
So
You
surely
like
there wouldn't
run
be a
over
third one
here and then
around
you
here,
change your
right?
direction.
Well, also in Cool Cool Mountain, there's this wall right next door
Yeah,
to
that
the
was
previous
running,
one
that was
right
running,
there.
this is
Now
running,
this
running.
wall is actually made up of 2 floors, 2 ceilings, and 2 walls. And it's the big wall on the left that's the issue.
Okay.
It's another triangle, so it has 1 edge vertex on the bottom. This edge vertex misses the edge by
Bro, why
causing a
didn't you
floor
tag
gap,
him?
resulting in 2 sections
What-
of invisible wall. The section on the right is due to this ceiling triangle that we've been looking at the whole time, and the section on the left is due to this ceiling down here.
That
You know,
falling
the top
does
of the
not
little
count
cave.
as running, so
And so
you can't
basically,
tag him for
if you're
that.
messing around near the blue coins, you might just bump into this.
You didn't know about that?
Now this invisible wall is interesting.
Oh, wait, you
because it's
relaxed.
actually
You
used
won
in the task
again.
for collecting 100 coins while doing the big penguin race, which was
Alright
tasked
guys,
by
Top Hat is
Krampus.
gonna
So
count
he
to
uses
5.
the invisible wall
Top
to
Hat is gonna
backwards
count
long
to
jump
10.
in order to get lots of
Pretend
speed.
that there is
That
no
makes for
such
a
thing
quick
as
trip
beef.
back
Just
up the
pretend
mountain
that
to
the
enter
beef
the
never
cabin for
happened.
the
If it
penguin race.
continues,
Now I've
then
talked
just
about
report the
backwards
game.
long jumping a couple times.
Alright,
but I
so
haven't really
count to
explained
10.
it, so let me do
I
that
don't know
now.
what just
So
happened.
Mario has a
I
move
just
called a
fell
long
too
jump that
fast.
you can do by pressing
So
C
just count
and
to
then
10.
A while you're moving. Now the cool thing about a long jump is that when you start it, it multiplies your
Oh, the
speed by
perfect
1.5. Let me show this on the graph. If we
I
start
wish
with
I
1
had
speed
seen.
and then continuously long jump, our speed increases by more and more each time. Because each time, it multiplies by 1.5, or in other words, gets 50% bigger. Now the programmers didn't want you to be able to get infinite speed this way, so they
At least
capped it
not
at a
looking behind
maximum
me.
of
I'm running
48
so
speed.
much.
So a long jump will never go above 48 speed. But the programmers made a little
Bro, all of
oversight
it
because
just
they
ran
forgot about
away.
the negative numbers. So let's say we start with -1 speed. Now if we start continuously long jumping, our speed will decrease by more and more, since multiplying by 1.5 just makes
I
these
left the
negative
vision. You
numbers
can't
more
tag me
negative.
anymore.
And this time there's
Oh,
no
hey, look,
cap,
who's
because
that?
the programmers never put a minimum speed that a long jump can do. So basically, we can get unlimited negative speed by long jumping backwards. And so we call it a backwards long jump, or BLJ. Now, doing backwards long jumps doesn't automatically result in unlimited negative speed. That's because even though the starting speed of a long jump is uncapped, Mario loses speed while he's in the air from the long jump. So trying to backwards long jump on a flat floor with nothing else won't work because Mario loses too much speed in the air. Looking at the speed value, you can see that I get to -20 speed right after starting a long jump, but then it goes back to -15 by the time I land and can do the next long jump. To avoid losing all this speed, we need to do a bunch of backwards long jumps in quick succession. So you can do this on a steep floor, because then each long jump lands back on the floor instantly, and so you can do a bunch of long jumps in a row without any airtime. You can also do it on a rising platform, because the platform rises into your jump, so you land instantly and can then backwards long jump again. And finally, you can do it using a ceiling, because the ceiling makes you land instantly instead of letting you jump up. See, it's all coming together. So going back to the Cool Cool Mountain task, let's pause it, zoom in, and now I'll show Mario's movement arrows. And I'll make the arrows green if they're on the first frame of a long jump. So you can see that each backwards long jump was strategically done to move into a ceiling column, which prevents Mario from jumping up and instead makes him land right after. That allows Mario to do the next backwards long jump right away, and so is able to build up speed very quickly by doing that. So see, invisible walls can actually be
I'm
helpful.
running
Then in
away.
Big Boo's Haunt, we have this wall on a seam between floors. Now you might be wondering
Oh, let
what
me
floor
scratch
the
my head.
magenta line belongs to.
Alright.
Well, there are actually some invisible, intangible floor triangles in this room covering
Oh,
the
look, there's
giant gap in
blue.
the floor. So why are they there? Well, you see, when Mario's in a course with rooms like Big Boo's Haunt,
Buddy!
and only 1 or 2 rooms are
Bro,
active at
what
a
what
time.
part of you
Specifically,
thought jumping
it
at me was a
activates
good
the room
idea?
that Mario's in and any room that he's next
Alright,
to.
you're not
And
last.
the way the game figures
There's
out
still
which
this
rooms
blue
to
guy.
activate is based on the floor triangle that Mario
Wait,
is above.
no, he lost
So to
track
put it
and he
simply,
didn't
if
run.
Mario's
I
above
saw
a
him.
floor in
He
room
lost
A,
track.
then room A will be active. If he's above a floor in room B, then
You're
room
not
B
allowed
will
to
be
stop
active.
moving for more than
And if
3
he's above a
seconds.
sort of intermediate
Just
floor,
giving you a
usually
warning.
next to a door,
It's not
then
a
both
tag
room
yet.
A
You
and
won.
room B
That
will
was
be
your
active.
fault.
Now,
You
the
win,
system works
Blue.
pretty well, but think about how it would work in this room. The thing
Win,
about this
win,
room is that
win.
there's a big gap in the floor that leads to the room down
Alright,
below.
guys,
Since
Banana,
Mario's
count to
current
10.
room is
We
based
have to
on the
run.
floor he's above. In theory, that would mean
Come on,
jumping
guys,
over
we have
the
to fight
gap
away
would
from
change
him.
your room to the room down below. That'd be bad because then the room down below would be active instead of the upper room, even though you're still in that upper room. So
Come
to
on,
solve
guys.
this, the
Follow
programmers
me.
did 2 things.
Follow me, we
First,
have to hide
they
away
added
from
some
him.
invisible, intangible
Right here.
floors here that belong to this upper room. That way, even if you're above the gap, your floor triangle is still a floor from this upper room, and so the upper room stays active. And second, a bit lower down, they added a second layer of invisible,
Already active,
intangible
right,
floors.
thanks.
These floors are
Falling
intermediate
does not
floors,
count as
meaning
running.
they activate both the upper room and lower room. So when Mario
But
falls
jumping
into the gap,
does. If
first
you
the
jump
upper
up
room is
high,
active,
it does,
then
but
both
falling
the upper
from
room
up high
and
does
lower
not.
room are active, and then only the lower room is active. So yeah, that's why these floors are here. And now let's resume the visual.
I'm about to
which
slap
reveals
you
that there are
5
floor
times
gaps.
if you don't
But this
walk away.
time, it's not ceiling or out of bounds that's below the floor gaps. Remember earlier, I said there
Falling
were 3
does not
cases
count as
for
running, so
floor.
we can fall down.
So far, we've only
Is there a
seen
lava
case
monkey?
2, which is out of bounds, and case 3, which is a ceiling. But now, it's our first time seeing case 1, where
snack
there's a
does
floor
not
gap
sound
with a
bad.
floor under it. So it's not actually an invisible wall, though it does stem from the same cause. So in our demonstration, that means each of these floor gaps has a floor under it, so I'll put blue points to represent that. And remember, these are floor gaps in the upper intangible floor. So when
Yo,
Mario
yo,
goes
they're
above these floor
showing
gaps,
blickies
his
over
mid
there.
floor is the lower intangible floor. So doing that causes the lower room to also
showing a little-
activate
they're
and
showing a
hides the
little-
objects in the upper room,
Alright,
like
fine,
the Boo and Red
fine,
coin. So that's why out of nowhere, the Boo can just
Bro, why
teleport
would you
back to
tag
the
him?
starting position
What's
while
wrong
you're in
with
this
you?
room. And finally,
Oh, yes, he
since
did
it's a
run.
floor gap with a
Why was
floor
I
under it,
tagged?
you can just jump into it and fall down to the room below.
I'm sorry. You were right next to you. I was behind you.
What? What the hell? Did anyone just
Oh,
see
you're
that?
not left. He's
And
not
in
left. He's
Hazy
not
Maze
left.
Cave,
He's not
we have
left.
this mesh ceiling that
No,
you're
he's not.
supposed
He's
to
not
swing
left. I
across.
just checked the
If you're
leaderboard.
not
I just checked
familiar
the
with it,
leaderboard.
there's
I'll
this
check it
path on the
again.
right that's just a dead
There's
end.
two greens.
There's
There's
this
two
path in the
greens.
middle that leads to an item
Hello,
block for the
green.
one up
Hello,
there.
green.
And there's this path on the left
Which
that
green
leads
is
to the
gonna
star.
burn?
Now this one isn't actually an invisible wall, and it's not even a floor gap, it's a ceiling gap. Because remember, all the properties about floor detection also
Remember,
apply
you
to
can't stop
ceilings,
moving.
so they can have edge
I saw
vertices
that.
that cause gaps too. And the reason
You're-
these ceiling gaps matter is
you're
because
really
if you're
close
swinging
to
across
running.
the mesh and move into a ceiling gap, then you fall off the mesh. So anyway, on this mesh structure, we have these 4 edge vertices that lie on this edge, we have this edge vertex that lies on this edge, and we have this edge vertex that lies on this edge. So first, let's look at the seam on the dead end path. Its edge vertex causes a ceiling overlap, which means that there's no problem here. So there's no risk of falling off if you explore the
Alright,
dead
come
end. Then next, let's look at the seam at the start of the 1-up path. This one has 2 edge vertices. The right one causes a ceiling overlap, and the left one
Hey,
also
Banana Head,
causes a
come
ceiling
over.
overlap. So this
Alright,
seam
fine,
is
come
also
on, Banana Head, let's
fine.
go.
Now let's look at the seam near the end of
Green!
the 1-up path.
Sneak
Its
attack.
edge vertex misses
That's
by
all you
causing a
run.
ceiling gap.
You're
meaning that
last.
there are ceiling
You
gaps
win.
all along the
Congratulations.
seam. And I'm
You
making
almost
them
won
orange
again.
because we need a new color for ceiling gaps, and
Alright, guys,
I
count to 10. Count to 10.
Then
Count to
next,
10.
let's
Let
look
us
at the
count.
seam at the start of the star path. Just 1 edge vertex, which misses by causing a ceiling gap. So on this seam too, there are ceiling gaps that could make you fall off. Not very good, since this is the path to the star.
You
Like,
forgot
for
about
one
that.
path you have to take.
7, 8.
And
Oh, wait, I'm
finally,
sorry. 7,
let's look
8,
at the
9.
seam near
I
the
forgot.
end of the star path. Just 1 edge vertex again, and this one also causes a ceiling gap, which is extra not good because that means the path to the
Hello?
star has 2 seams of ceiling gaps, which like I
What?
said, can make you fall off out of nowhere. So in total, the mesh has 3 seams of
Oh, yeah.
ceiling gaps.
But we-
1 on the
we do
path
have
to the
to
1-up and 2
run,
on the
like,
path to
once.
the star. You know, this whole thing kind of feels like one of those carnival games that's secretly rigged against you. Like, they let you practice your swinging skills on the end to let you get the hang of it and build up your confidence. Because there's no risk of falling off there. That one's perfectly safe. So then you try testing your skill on the one-up path.
Yo, somebody just joined. We're playing No Running in the Halls right now.
But then right at the end is the trap to make you fall off. Here I hit a ceiling gap and fall down.
I'm not running.
I still land on the platform. And finally, if you want to go for the big prize, the star, well now it's
I think it's funny because you guys believe me every time, and I'm not lying every time, but eventually I'm just gonna use that as a distraction to run away.
And the second group of ceiling gaps is less dense on the left side, so that's what
Yo, be careful, there's a blue guy behind you. Don't
I
back up
still
like
end
the
up
bar.
hitting it and falling down, which could easily lead to your death if you're not expecting it. And also, because these are ceiling gaps, that means it's possible to just jump right up into the gap, because the ceiling doesn't block you there. Here's what jumping into the gap looks like in the game. And just for good measure, I bonk in there to show that I'm surrounded by ceiling hitbox. Then in Lethal Lava Land, we have this arched platform. Its shape is like a breeding ground for edge vertices. Look at it, we have 7 of them. So let's see, we have a floor overlap, floor overlap, floor gap, floor gap.
Oh.
So mainly on the right side,
Well,
we have a bunch of unit columns of out of bounds that leak out. But
falling
can't
does
forget
not
about
count
the
as
other
running,
side of the
so
structure, because on this
I
side, we
am
have something
allowed
very similar
to-
going on. 7 edge vertices. Looking at these ones, we have a
Oh.
floor overlap, floor overlap, floor overlap, floor overlap, floor gap.
Falling does
floor
not
gap,
count, so I
floor
am
gap.
I am
So it's
allowed to
actually
do
the
this
same
because
pattern
falling
on
does
this
not
side
count.
that it was on the other side. But yeah, be careful if you're on this structure.
Never mind,
And when Mario
you're
does
not
a
able to
lava
do it
boost,
slow.
he's able to reflect
Falling,
off of
we're
it,
playing No Running in
which
the
means we
Halls.
can
Falling
wedge
does not
Mario
count as
between
running.
unit columns to make him reflect every frame, just like earlier with the bonking. Then in the volcano and Lethal Lava Land, we have these floor triangles near the lava fall, which have an edge vertex
You mean
between
bad.
them. So this is a rare case when it involves a seam between floors without there being a wall on the seam. But we can analyze it just the same and see that the edge vertex causes a floor gap. So there's not even a wall over the floor gap this time.
slack
There's
off,
just
that
nothing
baby
there.
is
And that's why
about
we
to
get
jack.
unit columns of out of bounds, which extend all the way up to near this upper path. So if you try to take a shortcut by jumping over the gap, you could just end up bonking on this invisible wall and falling down. And the cool thing about this one is that it's actually used in the A button challenge. You know, where your goal is to not press A. See, bouncing off the invisible wall helps you redirect
I
your
wonder when
momentum
we're
when
gonna
you're
have
doing
a
lava
flashlight
boosts
that
up the
actually
lava
makes
bowl,
the-
which lets you
I
get
wonder
all the
when
way
we're gonna
over to the
make an
start
item that
platform without
actually
having
makes
to
the
press
room
A at all.
brighter.
And
Like
in
a
Dire
flashlight or
Docks,
something.
we have this
Because
wall
there's
near
like
the final
helmets in the
point
game that have
based on the
flashlights
edges.
on them
It doesn't look
that
like
do
there should be
nothing
any edge vertices here.
to the
It just looks
brightness.
like 2 edges that should laterally align. But what you don't see is that the floor on the bottom is bigger than you'd think and extends behind the wall. So really, the bottom edge looks like this, which means we have 2 edge vertices on the top. Now this one's weird because the edges are not at a weird angle, they're cardinally aligned, which means that it was completely doable to put these edge vertices exactly on the edge. But for whatever reason, they miss. And so we end up with a 2-unit thick continuous seam of invisible wall, which makes this one pretty egregious.
No,
Like,
I
if you
stopped
cross over
running.
this seam, you're very likely to hit this invisible wall, compared to the other ones we've seen whose units are more scattered. So you might bonk on it, you might try to jump up from the water onto the ledge and only manage to ledge grab, and you might try to run off this ledge and end up ledge grabbing instead, because walking into an
think I just
invisible
saw-
wall
wait,
slows down your
I'm
speed,
not sure if I
and
saw a
walking
white
near a
light or
ledge
this-
with too little speed
Is
makes
that
you
white
drop
over
down
there?
into a ledge grab instead of just walking off the edge. Then in Snowman's Land, we have this wall. The top of the wall is subdivided into 2 different edges, so we have an edge vertex between them.
I just had a massive lag spike. That would have been the
And you can
sickest
see
juke
that
of
some of these unit
2024.
columns only rise upwards until they meet the icy bridge. But anyway,
Oh, wait,
I guess
yes,
this
they got the
invisible
Nintendo.
wall
Yes,
could
they got
actually
the
help you if you were about to accidentally jump off, because then it could bonk you back on. Then another in Snowman's Land, we have this wall near the igloo, though 2 of these triangles are actually ceilings. So here are the edges, and here are the relevant edge vertices. Zooming in on them,
Falling
we
does
have a
not
floor
count as
overlap
running,
on
so
the
I can do
left,
this.
and on the right, the vertices miss in a way that causes a floor gap. But just a
I'm
little one,
giving
with
me-
exactly 2 columns
They're
of
up in the
out of
crystals, you know.
bounds. And you can see that these columns only rise upwards until they meet the icy bridge. So it seems unlikely that anyone's ever hit these ones before, since there's just 2 of them and they're in such a weird spot next to this green wall. Also in Snowman's Land, we have these floor triangles on the snowman's head.
Hello.
Once again, this is a seam between floors with no wall in it,
I'm
and the
walking
floors have an
myself.
edge vertex that causes a floor gap. But do these floor gaps let through out of bounds?
You can
or
do like
ceiling?
small hops,
Well,
but
why
no
not
jumps.
both? See, farther down on the snowman, there's a ceiling that covers
I
some of
know
the
you-
floor gaps, but not all of them. So floor gaps to the
Yeah, what's
northwest
we doing?
let out of bounds leak through, and floor gaps to the southeast let ceiling leak through. So it's like a hybrid invisible wall. Half out
Falling
of
is
bounds,
not
half
wrong.
ceiling. But 100% trouble, because one bonk on this could send you falling all the way down the
He's going
snowman,
into the
and I mean
crevasse,
all
guys.
the way down. Then still in Snowman's Land, we have this wall near the moving snow mounds. It has
Bad.
2 edge vertices on top because the wall is a trapezoid. The left edge vertex does a floor overlap, which is fine, but the right edge vertex does a floor gap, which is the problem. So all along the seam, there are unit columns of out of bounds. So if you're playing around near the snow mounds, you might just bump into this invisible wall. Now there's something very interesting about this invisible wall, which has to do with the snow mounds. If we look at it from the side and take a sort of cross section, you can see that each of the snow mounds actually drops down into the ground and covers the invisible wall for a split second before disappearing.
Your cancer
And the
is
extra
running.
big snow mound covers it a lot. So this
Is
is
your
the only
cancer
invisible
running?
wall where
You
unit
ready for
columns of
your
out of
cancer?
bounds continuously appear and disappear. And because of that, we can actually have the out of bounds appear
Is your
into
cancer
Mario,
running?
causing him to
You
die.
wanna go catch
You
it?
get it? Like normally, out of bounds prevents you from going into it.
Is your
But we can
cancer
go
running?
there when the out of bounds is gone, and then it reappears into us. So basically, you can just die out of nowhere. And I should mention, if you go back into bounds, you can move around
Never,
somewhere.
never say
But
never,
the death
never.
transition already started, and so it'll still take you out
Never,
of the
never
level.
say never,
Now
say
you have
never.
to wonder, did anyone ever die like this in the history of the game? Surely it would take like 1,000 years before
he
this
was
ever
right.
happened to someone
He
by
was
chance,
right.
right? Well,
Dad.
wonder no more, because it did happen to a guy named Bebop Bandit live on stream. So let's watch.
And of course I do.
No, you don't.
Please. Please! For the love of God!
Excuse me, what the cigarette?
What the hell? Are you
I think he was running. Yeah, he was. Even though that wasn't me.
What the?
Why would you say that?
So it just goes to show, when you have so many people playing the game for so many years, crazy rare stuff will happen eventually. And finally in
Thank you for
Snowman's
the
Land, this
correction,
wall
big
belonging
boy.
to the green slope. You know the drill. There's an edge vertex, it misses by causing a floor gap, and so there's unit columns of out of bounds all along the seam. Now you might think this one wouldn't be too bad, because who goes on that green slope? But actually, speedrunners climb over it as a shortcut, so it could definitely cause them to bonk and mess up their run, because now you're sliding all the way down into the water. Then near the top of Tall Tall Mountain, we have this little sliver of a wall. It has one edge vertex on the bottom, and if we look closely at it, we can see that it causes floor gaps. And these are the kind of floor gaps with a floor under them, because the death barrier is below them. And so interestingly, we can actually just jump right into one of these floor gaps and go through the mountain, falling all the way down to the death barrier. And these floor gaps are actually used in the A button challenge. See, Mario's able to dive up that seam using the floor gaps, because each floor gap makes him become airborne, which lets him dive again even though
Wait,
he's on his
he still has to count to
and
10.
diving straight up this seam is the fastest way to get to the star on top of the mountain. Then
Oh.
in Rainbow Ride, we have this wall on the ship. This one also doesn't look like it should have any edge vertices. It just looks like 2 edges that laterally align. But if we look at the surface triangle view, you can see that there are multiple floors here. And that's because the floors on the right trigger wind, like most of the ship does, whereas the floors on the left don't trigger wind, probably to let you get up to the star more easily. So because of that extra subdivision of triangles, now we have an edge vertex on the bottom. That edge vertex
just
causes
sitting
a
at the
floor
mid
gap,
here.
so some unit columns of ceiling leak through. Specifically, from a ceiling on the bottom of the ship. So I don't know how often you're gonna go right there, but if you do, you could hit this invisible wall. Then in the castle grounds, we have this wall above the steps in the moat. As you'll come to learn, steps are super prone to
you
invisible
can take a
walls,
screenshot of
since
the
each step adds
screen
another edge
or a
vertex.
screenshot.
This one has 2, so
Here,
let's
just
see.
like to-
The left one causes
If you want
a
a
little
screenshot
gap,
from
and
the
the right
screen,
one
it's this
causes
for
a
the
huge
proof.
gap. It's off by 6 units. It's like they weren't even trying to align it.
And then if
so
you
the
wanna take a
result of this is
screenshot,
that we
like,
get
from
an
your
extra thick
VR.
invisible wall.
Why
At
was
least
I
compared
sad?
to the other
Why
ones
was I
we've seen
sad?
so far. So yeah, you might hit this one if you try jumping into the moat.
Oh
And
my
good
gosh,
luck
guys,
if you
it's
line
Jeffrey
up with
Dahmer.
the extra thick section.
It's another Jeffrey
And
Dahmer.
also in the castle grounds, we have this wall near the
Alright
bridge.
guys, we're playing
Like I
nobody
said,
in the
having
halls, by the
steps
way.
is likely to cause
the lava
invisible
monkey has
walls.
to count
This
to
is no
10.
exception. So this side of the bridge has some invisible walls. But there's also the other side of the bridge, which also has a wall above these steps. That also
And you
causes a
have
bunch of
to-
edge vertices, some of which cause floor gaps to the right of the bridge. So on this side too, there are unit columns of out of bounds. So if you ever want to
Falling
go
does
from
not
one
count
side
as
of the
running.
bridge to the other, maybe just walk on the bridge instead of jumping across the corners. You'll thank me later. And then inside the castle, we have the wall above the stairs down to the basement. With this many steps, we have more edge vertices than I know what to do with. Some cause gaps, some cause overlaps, you get the idea. You know, some part of me was like, there can't be invisible walls inside
Well, at
the
least
castle.
no one's tagging
Like, this is the
me.
hub area, our safe haven. But nope, even the hub area can have invisible walls, especially with how many steps there are in the castle. Well, most of the castle steps are cardinally aligned, so they don't have any issues. But the sides of these steps are at a weird angle, which is the problem. So yeah, on both sides of these stairs, there are invisible walls that could get in your way. So watch out for those. Now remember, if you jump up into a ceiling, it cuts short your upwards trajectory, and then you fall down. Also remember, if you jump up into out of bounds, the horizontal component of your quarter steps gets cancelled, but you still move vertically. Interestingly,
What?
the programmers made an oversight because they never considered what should happen if these two cases
What do you
occurred
mean
together.
vertical
And
vision?
so, if you jump up into out of bounds with a ceiling above you, the out of bounds cancels the horizontal component of your movement and you still move vertically, completely ignoring the ceiling. In
we're
other words,
playing
the
nobody
ceiling
in
has
the
no
hall, by the
effect.
way.
You can just go straight up into the ceiling hitbox. Now this invisible wall is made of out of bounds and it extends up into the ceiling. So here,
Falling
if
does
we
not
jump
count
up
as
into the
running.
invisible wall, it lets us pass straight through the ceiling, putting us next to the upstairs key door.
Wait,
This
what's
trick
going
was
on?
actually used
We
in the
trading
120
spots?
star
At
task,
least
since it's the
playing right from the
fastest way to
off.
go from the courtyard to upstairs. And the last example,
Jamie,
in the
go.
Snowman's Land room, we have yet another staircase whose sides are at an angle. So lots of edge vertices, and some of them cause
Jamie,
floor
go.
gaps. And so the result
Jamie,
is that we
Jamie.
get some unit columns of out of bounds. Not too many, just 8. Watch out for those when you're making your way through this room. So yeah, that's
No,
the fourth
I think
cause
you
of
go
invisible
first.
walls, which we're gonna call floor gap due to misaligned edge vertex. And so now,
Wait,
let's
I
look
think
at the
the
fifth
first lava
cause.
monkey left.
So remember that structure we had before, where it was just 2 steps? Let's look at it from
I
above
lagged,
again.
I lagged,
Remember,
I lagged.
when this structure rotated, the 2 floor
Count to
edges
10.
making up the seam stayed perfectly flush with no gaps between them.
Wait,
but
did
now
you already
focus your
count to
attention
10?
on this
I
vertex of
lagged.
the upper step. If we move this vertex to a slightly different spot,
Oh,
then the 2
yeah, he
floor
hasn't
edges
counted
aren't
to 10
flush
yet, guys, we
anymore.
can run.
There's a gap between them. And if we do our little process, we can see that there are now floor gaps which could cause invisible walls. And geometry like this happens in the game. There are vertices that are meant to be aligned, but for whatever reason, they're a bit off. You know how the previous cause of invisible walls stemmed from a misaligned edge vertex? That one was at least understandable, because the edge vertex had to have integer coordinates, so it couldn't be placed exactly on the edge.
And
But in this new
running.
case, there's
I'm
really
running
no
the halls.
excuse. The programmers literally just didn't line up 2 floor vertices that could have easily
No,
been
running the
lined up,
halls.
causing there to be
I'm
floor
falling, I'm
gaps.
not-
So
I'm
let's
not-
look
I
at some
didn't run,
examples. In Cool Mountain, we have this wall near the beginning.
Legends
Here are the
never
floor edges,
run.
and we're gonna
They
focus
just
on this
fall
vertex.
really fast.
So let's go to a top-down view,
Bro, I
show
hit
the
you with a
floors, and now
stone.
zoom in. The vertex I highlighted should have been lined up with this other vertex,
I hit
but
blood with
instead
the
of exactly
freeze.
coinciding, we have 2 vertices that are 1 unit apart, and all because the programmers
Yo.
didn't line them up right. So because of that, we have some
Big.
gaps along the seam. And it's not a ceiling or out of bounds that's below these floor gaps, but
It's
another
a
floor, specifically
big-
the death barrier. So the result of this is that we're able to jump into these floor gaps, assuming we do it at the corner where the wall is too small to push us away.
Hey,
And by
Curly.
going through this gap, we don't necessarily die, we
You
can
never
actually
left
land
his
all the
vision.
way
You
down
never-
here.
oh, well,
That's
I
why
guess
this
now you
technique
did.
is used in the
Now I can
120 star
finally run
task
away.
because it's the fastest way to get to the Wall Kicks Will Work star. Then in Shifting Sands
Bro,
Land,
stop
we have
reading
these
him
2
to me.
floors in the quicksand, which presumably share a vertex over here. But if we zoom in, we can see that their
Bro,
vertices are actually
it's
5
like
units
zombies
apart.
getting
That
attracted
means
to
all
sound,
along the
but
seam
instead of
between
sound,
those 2
they're attracted to
triangles, there are
speed.
unit columns of out of bounds. Not very good, because if you're riding the shell over that seam, then there's a chance your shell might break out of nowhere and you'll die.
Bro, we're going to the bathroom together, bro. Get out, bro. TTT hit me, bro. Why would you grieve?
And it could also mess up your flying, because if you fly into out of bounds, your angle gets redirected downwards.
Alright,
so you
everyone
might be
get out of
flying
the
along
bathroom.
and
Stop
suddenly
running
you're
the toilets
redirected
and my
downwards
dog.
into the quicksand.
Alright, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Bro, why would you get 10?
este juego? ¿Por qué te estafa así?
No, I'm
Then
no
in Wet
10.
Dry World, we have
Alright,
this wall
that
lies
was
on the
10
seam
seconds.
between floors.
I counted
if we
the last
focus on
ones
the
in my
lower
head.
right vertex, we can see that it misses the upper right vertex by 1
I
unit.
saw
So
it.
all along the seam, there are units
wait,
of
no,
out of
that's falling.
balance that leak out. And so when you're
I s-
collecting that
Bro,
ring of
you
8
fell on me.
coins, you might accidentally bonk on this invisible wall.
You
Then
fell
in Tall
on me.
Tall
I was
Mountain,
under
we have
you.
this wall near the rolling log. We're gonna focus on this
Yeah,
vertex
this-
on the
this
right.
is
but
running
also
too,
there's
because
an edge vertex on the left
is
that
running
we
because
should
you're
also
moving
look
fast.
at. So if we zoom in on them, we can see that the edge vertex misses by causing a floor gap.
Falling is.
And for the other
I saw
vertex
you
we
running through the
highlighted, it's
crystal.
off by where it should be by
I
1
saw you
unit.
running through
so
the
all
crystal.
along the seam, unit columns of ceiling
Bro, I
leak
saw you
out
running
from the
through the
ceiling on
crystal.
the underside of the structure. And hey, this is the invisible
3,
wall that I showed in the intro.
2.
Remember that? You were so innocent back then, you had no idea how deep
Oh,
this
you're
rabbit
ready.
hole
You're
went.
ready.
Then still in Tall Tall Mountain, we have this wall triangle. Note that the triangle next to it is
Oh,
actually a
Castellina.
floor and not a wall. And now we're gonna focus on this vertex. Zooming in on it, we can see that it's off by 1
you're
unit,
last.
which means that all along the seam, there are floor
I'm
gaps
glad
with
you
floor
didn't
under
go
them
overly
because
bully
the
with
depth
it. That
barrier
ranch,
is
I
below
only got
here.
like 30
And so
grams
it's
inside
actually
of my hand.
possible to just fall right through one of those floor
Count to
gaps
10,
and
buddy.
fall to the death barrier. Now this was the last main example of floor gaps with floor under them,
I just ate like
aka the
30
kind of floor
roly-polies
gaps you can
with a
just
Dapper
jump
Ranch.
into. But there are a few
No.
other examples that aren't
Yo,
as
can someone
interesting
get their
because
friends
you
to
can't
join
jump
or
all the way
something?
into them. But they're still worth mentioning, so let's briefly go through them. In Cool Cool Mountain, there's some floor gaps at the start of this bridge, so whenever
Alright.
you walk over this seam, you could enter freefall for a split second if your movement happens to line up with a floor gap. And if you try to fall into
let
one
me
of
check
these
what
floor
time it
gaps,
is.
the wall pushes you out
Yeah, it's
before you're all the
8:14.
way
I
through.
think I'm gonna end the
Also in
stream.
Cool Cool Mountain, there's some floor gaps in the Wall Kicks Will Work area at the start of this icy bridge.
Well, we live
if
in a
you try to
different
enter
time zone.
these, you get pushed to the side by the walls. In Snowman's Land, there's some floor gaps right where this
Well, I
walkway
live in a
connects
time-
to the
I
bully
live in the
platform.
Eastern Standard
If you
Time
try to
zone.
enter these,
So
you
it's
get pushed to the side by the
8:14 where I
wall.
live.
And in Tall Tall Mountain, there are some floor gaps right near the Monty Moles. Like the others, if you try to enter these, you get pushed to the
How is
side
it
by the
already
wall.
at 50%?
So yeah, I just
My
wanted to
battery
point those
life
out.
has
And now
really
back to the real
strongly
examples.
declined.
Lastly, in the castle grounds, we have these two walls
Alright,
near
well,
the
see you
waterfall.
guys tomorrow,
so this one's
probably.
like a 2-for-1 special, because this vertex misses by a bit, and this vertex also misses by a bit. So all along the seam of both of these walls, we have unit columns of out of bounds that leak through. So if you
I'm
want to
about
be
to-
like Yoshi
hold on,
and jump
actually-
into the waterfall, you'll have to hope you miss these invisible walls. So that's the 5th cause of invisible walls, which we're going to call floor gap due to misaligned vertices. And with that, it means we've done the left side of the
Let me
Punnett
just,
square, which focused on floor edges failing to
working.
line up. Next, we're going to
Alright,
do the
bye.
right side, which focuses on a floor
Bye.
edge and a ceiling edge failing to line up. You might get some deja vu as I explain it, because we're going to be going through a similar process to what we did before, but everything will be a little different. So, let's look at the 6th cause. So consider a box, just a regular old box. Floor,
I don't know if
on
I'm
the
gonna
bottom
share
there's a ceiling, and on the sides there are walls. Now we're going to look at it from above on the unit grid. This time, I'm going to draw the floor from the top of the box and the ceiling from
Alright.
the bottom of the box. Right now, the two rectangles exactly coincide, so it just looks purple. But I assure you, both a floor rectangle and a ceiling rectangle.
Okay. Well, that was a really fun stream. Hope to have another one tomorrow. I remember Tint Dude. And the human rodent. Alright, I hope you do. That was really fun.